What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Tom Cruise is on cocaine, y'all, and you better watch out. And welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Joel and I will take a look at the world of movie news and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. And we will also have our reviews of American Made, starring Thomas Cruise Willis III, and of course Stronger, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It's going to be a lot of fun, and Joel will have a couple of mini reviews as well. What are we going to think about all these movies? Are we going to like them? Are we going to dislike them? Well, you're going to have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast, where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you were searching on the internet for something really random, and you came across this podcast and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully my co-host and I can convince you to be one. This is episode 201, and if you are a returning listener, welcome back. We always love you guys, and if you're new, we will love you as well. Even though you don't know us and you have no idea how we're going to act, and you're probably have already shut it off by now. What we typically do on the show, if you are new, is we go over some movie news and some movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys, and we will have our reviews of some movies that come out on said weekend. And of course, box office results for the weekend to cap it all off, to let you guys know what is the numbers going on in the Hollywood system, everyone. So, that's the structure of the show. And on today's show, before we get into the co-host over there, is that the main reviews are going to be American Made and Stronger, and Joel's got some mini reviews that we're going to sandwich in between them and make ourselves a delicious shit sandwich, or, whatever type of sandwich comes out from this show. So that is on today's docket, everyone. And speaking of my co-host, he is over there with the microphone. Once again, it is Joel. Joel, what is going on?
Oh, goodness. This past week has been eventful. It's been good, though. I've seen a lot of movies that I had not seen before. Before last week, I had not seen The Last Temptation of Christ, and I also started the Three Colors trilogy from Krzysztof Kieslowski last night. I'm going to be continuing that tonight and tomorrow. Some great movies. My parents have been gone, so I've just kind of been bacheloring it at home, and so it's been fun. How are you, Chase?
I'm doing fantastic, but I hope Papa Copling doesn't listen to this episode and realize that you've been, animal housing it the whole entire while we were gone. He's just like, yeah, I've been bacheloring up, man. It's like, he's like, what? What have you been doing? No,
I've had a lot of wild, crazy parties this week. It's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. And also, our dads do not listen to our podcast, which is okay. No, my week's pretty good. Like you said, very busy. Did American Made screening on Tuesday. Did Stronger on Saturday morning, and then I actually spent most of my weekend on Hulu and Netflix. Hulu dropped all those Boy Meets World flavor, and I'm reliving my childhood, so that's fantastic. And then on Netflix, I what a great weekend for Netflix. Nick Kroll, my boy Nick Kroll. I love that guy. Ever since I saw him in the league in 2009. I've just been enamored with his improv skills. Like, he's one of the best improvers I've ever seen in my life, on any TV show or his stand-up, or, when he did his Comedy Central show, The Kroll Show. He has a new animated show that he co-created with three other people called Big Mouth, which is very crudely drawn, animated, and also crudely in dialogue. It's just nasty, it's dirty, it's about sex, it's about children, like, discovering their sexuality. And believe it or not, like, I know this show's getting a lot of flack. I'm not saying it's going to go down as, like, one of the best shows in history, but for what it was, and the fact that he brought, like, some of his league friends on, and other friends, like, Jordan Peele, Jenny Slate, Maya Rudolph, I enjoyed it. And there were some parts in that show that had me dying laughing to a point where, like, I couldn't even breathe. Like, it hit in the right spot. It was stupid when it was stupid. It was dirty when it was dirty. And fuck me, I loved it, so whatever. And fuck me, it's appropriate for that show, by the way. But the show overall is very enjoyable. It's a very brisk watch. It's 10 episodes, 30 minutes apiece, so that's fantastic. Second thing I saw on Netflix, and I texted Joel last night after I saw it, is Gerald's Game. This is the new Mike Flanagan-directed movie. He also directed Hush, which also dropped on Netflix last year, which, ironically, was about a deaf woman being burglarized. Came out in the same year as teenagers going into a house that they're trying to rob from a blind man and don't breathe, so that was kind of weird. Anyways, he also directed Ouija Origin of Evil, which I actually I kind of liked it. He's a really great horror director, and Gerald's Game is a really great Stephen King adaptation. The ending was a little rushed. Other than that, I thought it was great. I thought Carla Gugino, the hot chick from Spy Kids.
The hot chick from Spy Kids. Okay.
That's how she's going to be associated. No, she was really great, and like she had this like state of panic the entire time. She was losing her mind slowly, and like it was a really amazing movie about her character and like her backstory. And I thought it was really powerful with some really great camera work and directing techniques, and definitely some really precise staging in that room. So I really enjoy it. I recommend that one highly. Please see it on Netflix. I like it quite a bit. From earlier this. Or I guess last month, because this is October now. But I do believe Gerald's Game is the better adaptation, and that's saying a lot considering the fact that I still like it. So Stephen King, 2 in a row, there you go. And speaking of it, we are going to bleed off into the movie news. I know Joel is super excited about this. Joel, guess what? You're going to float too, just like Georgie. So It Chapter 2 is coming along. Of course, we already knew this. But there's an interesting thing that they're doing with the sequel. Now, Joel, I don't know if you know this, but every time when a studio releases a film, and it's a surprise hit, like a Deadpool, or like a Kingsman, ironically both in the same month, they move it to a different month to try to capitalize on said property. Well, It Chapter 2 is not really doing that. They're actually going to stick to a beginning of September release. So, it's slated for September 6th, 2019, which is great. That's less than 2 years from now, so we're going to get to see Chapter 2 pretty soon, actually. But Joel, I have to ask you, like, do you think them keeping it in September is great, to have it on that slot, or do you think they should move it to, like, more of a Halloween or, try a different month to try to capitalize on this property? Because this was a surprise hit, and when we get to the box office results, it's still crushing. So,
yeah.
Do you think them staying in September is a good thing?
No, I think it's a great thing. I think that they need to keep that weekend because I guess it'll be technically the first weekend of September that year. But nevertheless, it's still that kind of second weekend in September feel. It's, not right. It's like right after Labor Day. And, people wanted to see that. There were a couple of dead weeks, and now, and that'll be the same thing it's really every time it's the weekend after Labor Day when stuff kills at the box office. People are ready to go see a movie again. And because it's right after the beginning of school for some people. And anyway, I think that they killed with that weekend, and they thought, you know what, rather than move it, we'll just keep it there. Because while it might be neat if they did a Halloween weekend, I think that this weekend works for them. It's kind of the perfect weekend for a horror release, honestly. The weekend after Labor Day. It's worked before for other movies in the genre, and clearly, it's a money-making weekend. So if they can have that and, the next couple of weekends after it kind of clear in terms of that genre, I mean, it'll be perfect. It'll then carry into, Halloween of 2019. And so this way, next year we get Halloween right around Halloween, and then we'll get It again right after that. And I'm definitely excited for this one. I'm excited to see the obviously the kid cast is coming back for flashbacks, and they're going to be not recasting, but casting the adult roles. And I'm definitely excited.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think keeping it September is genius, actually, because as we've seen from this September so far, it's been the only, money-making, crushing movie that we've seen. Like, Kingsman actually underperformed. Laguna and Django underperformed. Like, September's been typically a month where, like, no movies ever flourish. And the fact that it opens up with, like, 100 and, whatever million it opened up to, telling people that, they want to see this movie, and it's now dominating September, and I think that's kind of cool. Warner Brothers can put their stake in that, so that's kind of awesome, man. So I'm excited for it. The only thing I'm worried about is, and this will actually bleed into Stranger Things talk for a little bit, is that these kids are getting older, and they got to start filming this like pronto.
I suspect that whatever the flashback scenes are, they'll probably be the first thing they shoot, or among the first thing.
They have to. They honestly have to, because
and it'll probably be next year. I suspect that they'll go into production next year, and if not, then maybe like 1 year from now. In which case, there might not be as much aging, but it has to be on their minds. That they gotta do that. It'll certainly be very interesting to see where they set the filming for that stuff. Because you're right. I mean, it's got to be the story. That part of the story's got to be right after it occurs for them. Mm. So you got to have some continuity there of the ages.
Well, I mean, you're starting to already see it with like promo pictures for Stranger Things season 2. Like Finn Wolfhard is getting taller, and I'm assuming his voice is dropping even more. So it's like you got to keep this going, folks.
Yeah, he's gonna lose whatever is remaining of the nerd voice that he has right now.
Yeah, so
that's not a slag against him. He just has one. It's just I have one. It's just his inflection, and once it gets deeper, it kind of messes with that, and you gotta film pretty soon.
This is what happens when you film something that could be a popular franchise when these kids are like 10 or 11 years old. Puberty's around the corner, so it's like, well, I mean, what do you do at this point? So, listen, if they have a slate for September 6th, 2019, they will be filming next year at some point. I'm assuming they're going to be filming in the summertime, fall time-ish of next year, so, it's close enough, so I'm they just got to jump on that. Speaking of jumping on stuff, I'm just kidding, we should not jump on this. Joel, why is Clifford the Big Red Dog a thing? Why is that still a thing now?
Yeah, so actually, I was going to say two things before we get into this. First, this is the first of 3 long gestating projects we're about to talk about. I'm going to take the first 2, and then Chase will take the third, right in a row here. So, and then the other thing was, how on the last weekend of August there was that movie Leap, that it was this, animated movie that just kind of didn't really do anything at the box office. Nobody saw it.
Joel, was that the sequel to Mother, since they both had exclamation points?
That was the prequel.
Oh, the prequel, excuse me.
It was the prequel, the little girl. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so... that's what happened after she became a dancer. Okay, so that's where I feel like this next project deserves to be released. Like, I feel like it's probably going to come in 2019 as well, maybe 2020, probably 2019. And I feel like, from the sounds of it, considering the subject and or the material, I should say, and considering the director, I feel like it needs to be dumped in that weekend where nobody sees it, because it's the beginning of the school year and nobody wants to go to the movie or has time. It's Clifford the Big Red Dog. It's coming back. So if any of y'all don't know what this is, because there's actually a chance that you don't, it kind of left the public conscience a while ago. It was a Scholastic book series that became a TV series in 2000 to 2003. Yes, I watched all of it because I was into that, at the time. And or maybe I think I might have watched an earlier version, or maybe like little videos. I can't remember. I was a reader of the books, though, as a youngster. And they are bringing it back for some reason. This is the one about the 25-foot tall dog and the little girl who learns lessons, gets the big gigantic puppy for her birthday. And they're bringing it back, and they're attaching basically, I guess you could say it's the worst director, but really it's...
Besides Raja Gosnell, who did the Scooby-Doo franchise?
I don't know. This choice might be slightly worse. It's pretty close, though. It's pretty close. I will say. That's also, like, that would be the other choice. That would be like, wow, okay.
Yep.
But yeah, Walt Becker is signing on to this. And yes, while he did do Van Wilder back in 2002, since then, he's kind of gone downhill from there with stuff like Wild Hogs, which was awful, Old Dogs, which honestly is one of the closest times I've ever come to walking out of a movie. I wanted to punch a wall with a baby. And yeah, that was that one that the late Robin Williams desecrated his own filmography with his fellow star John Travolta, and also he directed Alvin and the Chipmunks: The Road Chip, the one with the best title. And yeah, so he's signing on to this. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Originally, what was going to happen was, and it was announced in 2014, I guess. I missed this. But it was announced in 2014 that Illumination Entertainment, otherwise known as Despicable Me, Minions, those people, were going to release this last year. But then their option lapsed, and it went to Silver Tongue Films. And yeah, Paramount's going to be the main one behind them. And I'm just honestly baffled by this, because it's like this property isn't even like relevant anymore, if it ever was. There's no real message to the thing. It's literally just a girl gets a dog for her birthday and it's giant. And so, I mean, again, they got the best director to do this because he directs useless things, but I can't believe this. Chase, are you going to be running out to the theater to see this?
Well, I'm a little pissed off because Clifford the Big Red Dog has been out of the, like you said, the public conscience for quite a while. I was going to go for him as Halloween to bring him back into the conscience, but I guess this news has broken before my costume, so fuck you, movie. No, I don't care. Listen, I don't know if it's going to be purely animated or purely, was it a hybrid? Is it a hybrid mix?
I think it's a hybrid. So
okay, that shit's got to stop. Stop it. Stop that shit.
This dog is huge. It's again 25 feet tall, and
it's going to be living in the real world, and people are just going to be like, "Oh, look at that! It's a big fucking dog."
Pete's Dragon was one thing, but Clifford the Big Red Dog is bigger than Pete, or whatever the dragon's name was, and it's going to be the most garish. Again, he directed Alvin and the Chipmunks, or one of the movies, and those things look like crap.
Can we have it set in like Boston or something? Like, I would actually watch if it was like set in the Northeast, where like, this little girl's like bringing her like dog around the town, and like, it's like, I don't know, like wagging its tail, it's like knocking over a bunch of shit, and then like people are just like, "Hey, yo, get your fucking dog off the street, bitch!" And it's like, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, get your fucking dog off the street, bitch!" Like,
get Mark Wahlberg to star as her dad. I don't know. Do something like that. That would be great.
Hey, yo, bing, bang, boom, get your fucking dog out the middle of the road. Because you're right. How? Like, okay.
No. As his character from The Departed, as her dad.
Like there's two things wrong with this. One, hybrid animation live action just die. And second of all, if this is set in the real fucking world, how is this going to even transpire? Are we going to have her neighbors go, "Well, it's just another day with this big fucking red dog in the backyard"?
It would be slightly easier to swallow it if it was entirely animated. Yeah, because it's such a fantastical premise that you have to do that. I mean, you're right. With the real life, immediately you enter this realm of magical realism. And
no, you enter David Lynch's Twin Peaks season 4 shit. This is like stuff that's like you can't even imagine, because people are just like, "I will accept this. There's a big red dog. I accept life." It's like, no.
It's Twin Peaks: The Return of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Stupid. Move on.
Stupid. So moving on, there's another project that's been around since my birth, essentially. Not really. It's been floating around since 1998, and it's finally actually happening. And it has a release date in France, and that is Terry Gilliam's adaptation of The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. This will be interesting because originally what he had planned in 1998 was a movie with Johnny Depp that involved time travel. And of course, Terry Gilliam is the director. He's directed lots of stuff. I've only seen one of his movies, but he directed Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Brazil, Time Bandits. He directed, I think, one of the Monty Python movies. I can't remember which one.
Holy Grail, Life of Brian, I believe. Like he did a
I
couple of them.
I think he directed The Life of Brian. I think Terry Jones directed the others. But
Hmm.
anyway, it was one of the Monty Python people. And the one that I've seen, which is 12 Monkeys, with Brad Pitt's Oscar-nominated performance as a crazy man. Great movie. And yeah, and he's finally making the movie. It's in production right now. It's coming out in France in May, which means that at some point we'll be able to see it in the US. I'm going to be there first day because this is his this is his life's project. He became a filmmaker to make this, and
It's his opus.
Yeah, it's his opus, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's hours upon hours of length. So anyway, his original vision was Johnny Depp. It involved time travel. It was going to introduce that bit of sci-fi element to the story. Now what it involves Adam Driver, who's going to play the role that Johnny Depp would have played, which is kind of perfect. They have similar bone structure, similar appearance. And this one is going to be where Adam Driver is an advertising executive who is basically a reluctant Sancho, who's one of the characters. And it's going to be starring Jonathan Pryce, the great Jonathan Pryce, who's worked a lot with Gilliam. And he's going to be playing a man who is convinced that he's Don Quixote. So it's very interesting. And this is going to be from Amazon Studios. So it might be on their streaming platform. It could be in theaters. We don't know that yet, but it is coming out in France in May. Yes. I've been so interested in seeing, what he can do with this for a while. Obviously, I mean, I honestly, like, back when I introduced myself to film critics, that's when I heard about this movie because Roger Ebert reviewed the documentary that was made about the making of the movie that failed, Lost in La Mancha, which featured Johnny Depp. It was all about the filmmaking process there and how it went downhill. And I never watched it, but Ebert was a big fan, and I've always been interested to see that. What I might honestly do before I see it is search out that documentary, because it'll be interesting to see this documentary that kind of exists in like a previous version of history where the movie isn't able to be made right before seeing the movie. That should be very interesting. So that's the big news this week, really, is that finally Terry Gilliam's gonna have his opus released into the public before he passes away. He's getting up there in age, and so I'm excited for him, and I'm excited to see his final product.
I've only seen like bits and pieces of his movies, and I understand of his work. I know who he is. Like Monty Python is one of the most iconic like comedy groups of all time, so I know of his like legend status. I just haven't seen like most of his movies. I've seen bits and pieces of 12 Monkeys, and I do realize that this guy's behind like like Brazil and like all these other like kind of weirdo dramas and whatnot. I want to see it. Sure. That's all I got. No, I mean, I need to check out more of his other stuff first. I know that the Alamo Drafthouse had a Brazil screening like last week, and I should have attended it.
Yeah, I need to see it. We've got a bunch of copies of his movies at work, and I need to rent them, but I just haven't yet. In fact, I think that we have like 4 copies of literally every movie that that he's done.
Perfect.
Except for the documentary. The documentary we don't, but even he did one with Christoph Waltz a couple years ago.
Zero Theorem.
Called the Zero Theorem, which we have that as well, and I need to rent it because it keeps coming into our store and then leaving like 2 weeks later. So it's apparently popular in Frisco, Texas. I don't know. But yeah, I gotta rent these things because especially before this one comes out, because I'm super curious. Speaking of long gestating projects, let's get to that third one, Chase, because this is exciting, isn't it?
It is, because as Terry Gilliam, Martin Scorsese, is getting up there in age, but he still looks like an aging hipster. He is pretty much bouncing between a lot of projects, right? We covered the Joker thing that he might be attached to. He's got some behind the scenes production photos of The Irishman that dropped this week, and he's working with Joe Pesci again and Bobby De Niro, so that's kind of cool. He's also going to be working with Leonardo DiCaprio again, which makes sense to me. And Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be playing Roosevelt. That's kind of cool.
This is Teddy Roosevelt, we should say, not Franklin Delano.
Okay, yeah. Excuse me. The Bear Roosevelt.
There we go.
Bear Roosevelt. No, I'm excited for anything that Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio come together for. I need to ask Joel this because I actually never saw this because it was a flop at the box office. It was a flop, with many critics and stuff. Joel, how did he do in J. Edgar? Because that was kind of like a trial run for him, to be like a president, right?
It's the obvious choice because of who he's played. He's played not just J. Edgar but Howard Hughes in the masterpiece known as The Aviator. I love that movie. J. Edgar was good. I thought it was underrated. It did flop, and it was unwarranted. I feel like more people should have seen it. As far as I know, that wasn't a good weekend for the box office, though. But it was good. I thought it was underrated. I thought that DiCaprio did a nice job. The makeup, maybe not so much. There was some really unfortunate aging makeup, but he was really good. Armie Hammer was terrific, even better than he was. And it was a solid production, for sure. And this one has been floating around for a long time, and like with finding out about Lost in La Mancha and Gilliam's desire to make the Don Quixote movie, I found out about this being an option for Scorsese and DiCaprio back in 2004. I think that he's been trying to make this for a long time. It's supposed to be, I think that he foresees it as one of his longest movies because he's trying to do a big sprawling biopic about him. Not just, we've seen Lincoln is about a specific point in Lincoln's life. This is going to be the whole life. So, and Roosevelt has a very interesting life. Both Roosevelts do, but Teddy Roosevelt's got some really dramatic stuff that's perfect fodder for Scorsese's sensibilities. Scorsese has always been fascinated by presidents. He's made that clear, and I was obsessed with presidents as a young boy. I learned everything about them, and so I was very interested in Teddy Roosevelt's period of time when he was president. And there's a lot here that is very much in line with what Scorsese studies in his movies. Men obsessed with things about themselves or their lives or their surroundings, and that's very much what Teddy Roosevelt was. He was an obsessed man, obsessed with various things, really. He had an assassination attempt on him that he survived because of something in his front pocket. That's going to be very interesting to see. But I mean, it's also a life that's perfect for his style of fast-paced, a lot of movement. Really, honestly, if I were to put a screenwriter attached to it, Aaron Sorkin would be perfect. Because I'm serious. Teddy Roosevelt had one of the most involved lives of any president. He was involved with so much of history, of American history. And so this is going to be a lot of fun to see this all come together finally after 13 years or so, however long he's been trying to make it. So I'm
it seems like he's getting all these projects he's been working on for 2 decades or more, out of the woodworks, because The Irishman he's been trying to get together for a very long time.
Yeah,
so
he's been trying to do
and
that.
Silence,
the Devil in the White City or whatever it's called. He's been trying to do that for a long time, and that's
Silence was a long project for him, and Silence came out last year. So this guy's bringing up all the cobweb scripts.
He's literally going to people and saying, "Hey, can we get this off the ground? Because I'm getting up there in years, and I want to do this before I die.
I'm about to die. Can I make my movie?
I'm about to die. Can I direct
Yes, Marty. Yes, Marty.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, of course they're going to say yes. So yeah, I'm so excited. I think that this is kind of perfect for him, and I'm thrilled that he's going to be able to get to do this and The Devil in the White City. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited that he's getting involved with more projects now that he's getting up there.
Well, you know what's really great about Martin Scorsese, Joel, is that he's going to leave behind a
Lots
pretty
of things. First of all,
well, lots of things. Like he stylized like thick black rim glasses, and he's also going to have a really great filmography. You know who is going to have a spotty filmography and needs to try to get their fucking career back on track is Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So what's going on with them? Because you know that when you get fired from a Star Wars pick, you get a rebound, son.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously going to be an uphill battle for them. I can't imagine, that they probably tried to go to people and, being fired from a Star Wars movie for basically going against the screenplay is not going to reflect well upon yourself. But they do have a new project, and that is Artemis. This is actually a book from the author of The Martian. Andy Weir wrote this, and it is, I'm going to look at this. Where is the thing? An adrenaline-charged crime caper that features smart, detailed world building based on real science. It centers on Jasmine Bashara, a.k.a. Jazz, just another too smart, directionless 20-something chafing at the constraints of her small town and dreaming of a better life. Except the small town happens to be named Artemis, and it's the first and only city on the moon. She's got debts to pay, her job as a porter barely covers the rent, her budding career as a smuggler isn't exactly setting her up as a kingpin, much to her disappointment. So when the chance at a life-changing score drops in her lap, Jazz can't say no, and she finds herself in the middle of a conspiracy for control of Artemis itself. So this is interesting because obviously we know Phil Lord and Chris Miller from the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, comedic works basically. So this seems like, obviously there's probably going to be some sort of comic element. I can't imagine that they won't incorporate that. But it does sound like a bit of a departure for them, something a little more serious, probably with a new actress or a young, up-and-coming actress. If the name of the person indicates their heritage or their nationality, can we maybe say the girl from American Honey? Like, can we get her into another movie? Because I love that. Anyway, nevertheless, this is very promising for them because all they've really got on the way otherwise is the animated Spider-Man movie next year, and then they're writing the screenplay, and they're writing the screenplay for that. They're not directing it, and they're also not directing, but they are writing the Lego Movie sequel. So, this will be interesting to see them go in a more dramatic direction. I think that that's going to be very interesting to come from them. So I'm excited to see this.
Joel, can you reverb that for me? This is a movie set in space, correct?
Yes.
This is their retaliation to Han Solo. This is dirty work. This is basically them going, fuck you, Disney. We're going to do our own space movie. And this is exactly what they're going to do. Their agents knew what they had to do, and so they got them a space project. So they could have them direct it, be the sole creator of it, and then release it and go, this is what Han Solo would have been like. It's a complete project to shove up Disney's ass. This is all this is.
And they've gone over to Fox to do this.
Yeah.
The former, owners.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like this is straight up like Disney's asshole. Like this is like they're tickling around in there. So
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see where they kind of depart from comedy wise because I love their comedy work, regardless of their attitude on Han Solo. Lego Movie is such a delight. It's charming. The 21 Jump Street franchise is like ridiculous comedy, but I absolutely love it. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a very underrated little animated film that I absolutely adore. I don't care for the sequel, but the first one is very, very charming as well. They're really good at comedy, and I can't wait to see what they do with the animated Miles Morales Spider-Man. I know they're not directing it, but they're still heavily involved in it. So I'm still on their side. They do, like, if the stories are true that, they kind of, like, diverge from the script and they were kind of, like, very hesitant on set of Han Solo, because we don't know the exact facts yet. then yeah, that's kind of dickish. But I'm still going to give them a second chance. I'm not going to just oust them yet. So hey, they want to retaliate and do their own space picture. This is it. So I have no problem with it. Let's see what they got. Joel, Denis Villeneuve, he's a pretty great director, right? Like he's a pretty solid dude. I would have to say. He's being looked at to do a Cleopatra remake. Now I know that sounds like weird and kind of off-putting because it is, but he's also being tapped to do Dune. He's being tapped to do a bunch of other projects. So, Joel, I have to ask you, is Denis Villeneuve, like, on the track to being overexposed? Can a director be overexposed?
I don't think so. In this case, maybe one can be, and obviously I feel like a lot of people have gotten enough of, like, Woody Allen or whatever, but nevertheless, because Woody Allen makes 17 movies a year, I'm convinced of it. Don't correct me. No, but I think that Denis Villeneuve is basically just trying to keep as busy as possible, and it's very interesting because what I find is he's able to produce like content that's fast. So, as we know, Cleopatra, the original film, met a lot, like basically went way over budget. Adjusting for inflation, until these Avatar sequels come out, they started production last year with $1 billion budget. Adjusting for inflation, except for those, and that's technically multiple movies, Cleopatra was the most expensive movie ever made. And it's because of, like, there was some illness or something that that one of the, who was it? Elizabeth Taylor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had, and that had to, they had to move the entire production to another country, and they had it all built already. And anyway, it just cost them to go hundreds of millions of dollars in today's money over budget. So that one had a big, messy production history, and that's obviously going to be a factor. They have to think about that for this because it's gigantic. The original movie is 4 hours and 3 minutes long, and it's a very, wide-ranging story with a lot of moving parts to it that will require a long length. Obviously he doesn't have problems with long movies, as we're about to see this next weekend, but Dune, almost completely went under. Alejandro Jodorowsky was attached to it before it went downhill, and he had to give it up, and he had all these amazing names attached to it. And then, David Lynch came out with with his version, and it's been pretty divisive overall. There are people who hate it. There are people who love it because it's David Lynch. There are people who hate it because it's messy and directionless. I haven't seen it. I have no comment. But nevertheless, that studios are going to Denis Villeneuve to do these things. And also we have to remember that another Blade Runner was considered impossible for a long time. And it was never really considered as a serious possibility for so long because it was considered hard to do. And here, now we're coming out with a Blade Runner movie that comes out less than a year after the director's previous movie. So clearly studios trust this guy, and I think it's because he works well and artfully within studio constraints. So if they're going to go to him, they know that they can trust him. So I think that, and actually, I'm going to say this now and just kind of tease this. If they're going to get somebody for our next movie, it needs to be him. But nevertheless, I don't want that to happen, the movie in general, but if they're going to have anybody do it, they need to get him to do it. Nevertheless, he is attached to a lot of projects, and I like that because I think he's an auteur, honestly. I think that he has a sincere sensation of authorship over the movies that he makes. And I think we're about to see it again with a studio movie that's based on a previously existing material. I think that he just works well within those studio constraints. They trust him. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see him do a period piece set, presumably in the Middle East, because he's not done that kind of thing before. Cleopatra is distinctively different from Blade Runner 2049. So, and from, Dune even, really. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see all of these projects that he's attaching himself to. He's clearly not just going for the popular one. I don't feel like they're going to attach him to a Star Wars movie. I don't think he'd agree to it. I think that he wants to make more interesting projects that challenge him. Star Wars probably wouldn't be a challenge. We've talked about it before with Star Wars. It doesn't matter who directs it. And I think that he would want to have a project where it matters that he directs it. And these are certainly projects like that. They're going to need a good guiding hand to get them through, and I think that studios trust Villeneuve to do that. So
yeah, he's one of the best working today. And he's actually got one. He's like, if if you're watching like a cartoon series or whatever, and like they're in a business meeting, they put the chart up and like, here's how business is going to progress this quarter with like the just basic slant upwards. He's got one of the best slants going up in any type of like director filmography. So get this, he's done short films and like other smaller stuff. Since 1994 is when he kind of like got into the field. He didn't really break out until he did Polytechnique and Incendies, which are, I haven't seen them, but a lot of people are like,
we have copies at work that I need to. I think we definitely have Polytechnique. I think I need to look for Incendie, but yeah, he really did break out there. People started to notice him.
Like what's great with him is that like no one knew those movies at all, and I still remember to this day. When I got that screening invite to Prisoners in 2013, I had no idea who this director was, and he completely put his stamp on the film industry.
And now he's had one movie a year since.
Yeah, no,
he had Prisoners. Then he had Enemy within like 6 months or something.
Yeah,
within a year at least, and then the next year Sicario, then Arrival last year, now Blade Runner. I mean, he's really rising up.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about the progression in terms of the scale of budget and production, Incendies and Polytechnique, those are very like small, low budget that he probably filmed on a $5 bill. Then you get to Prisoners, it's kind of like a smaller, under medium film. Enemy is a smaller film. Sicario is a little bit under the middle film, and then you get to Arrival, and that's more of like a middle film. Blade Runner 2049 is going to be like the biggest thing he's ever tackled, and then if he's going to be attached to Dune and Cleopatra, he's just only going up from there. So it's like, this guy, you can't stop him. He's just going to keep going up.
What they do need to do is kind of control the budgets for those a little bit, because obviously that's kind of what got them into trouble with the last times they tried to make these movies. And, now Blade Runner has such a huge, gigantic price tag that even though it won't technically flop because it's going to make a lot of money, it's going to flop relative to its cost. And
well, apparently Alcon doesn't really give a fuck about budgets because they spent $100 million on that Point Break remake, and that didn't do dick at the box office.
Yeah, if he can just kind of stay attached to Alcon, I guess
Right?
That's probably going to be his best bet to get a bunch of money for these, because clearly their money is coming from somewhere. Somebody somewhere is extremely rich and is deciding to fund Denis Villeneuve movies, which more power to whoever that is.
It's kind of like with Laika, the Travis Knight. His father he's a very rich basketball owner, so he's the one that like funnels the money into that company, whether those movies make money or not. So you gotta find people that are willing to do that, because I don't think people understand the scale of Blade Runner 2049. There are two distributors, folks. There's Warner Brothers. People tend to forget that Columbia is also attached to it.
Wow.
Sony is attached to that movie as well. So,
goodness me.
Yeah, this is a humongous gamble, and with all these positive reviews and whatnot, I'm hoping this works out for Denny, because Arrival was his first like smash hit. Like Prisoners did very good, but like Arrival was like the first one where like it got over $100 million domestically, which I didn't even think was possible. So if he can knock it out of the park with Blade Runner 2049, I will literally be like, Denny, you can do anything. I don't give a crap. I want you to take on biopics. I want you to take on westerns. I want you to take on comedies. I want you to take on everything. So
if there was anybody that I would want to bring back western, it's somebody with a compelling style and a specific style, and that's certainly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because you can watch any of the movies that we've mentioned, and you know that they're from the same person, but he's working in different wavelengths.
But they're all so
playing
different.
With genres. They're all so terrific. And Arrival is my favorite of his so far. I think that he's, only gotten better as he's done it, and it's crazy. I love this guy. I think he's one of the best working right now.
But believe it or not, Joel, I know this is going to surprise you. Enemy is my favorite.
Enemy's your favorite. Hey, it's a great one. So I'm totally down for that. It's his
weirdest for sure.
It's a weird movie, but it's probably the most Denis Villeneuve movie ever. But nevertheless, I think it most lines up to his sensibilities. But whatever the case, I mean, the guy's killing it, and I can't wait to see Blade Runner on Thursday. I can't wait to see, he'll probably have Dune out by next year.
Probably.
Given his style of shooting very quickly. That's what I'm hearing, is that he's sort of kind of like Eastwood. He doesn't go for many takes in his shooting. So he's clearly,
but
shoot,
it works.
Get it done. Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, he's able to get great work from everybody that he's worked with. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to see him work with big sets with Cleopatra, big sets and effects with Dune. It's very exciting. You know what's not exciting? Even though I kind of want him to take it on if they have to do this. Okay, so Your Name, which is one of the best films so far this year, was an anime that came out in April. And it grossed $300 million in Japan, held the top spot at their box office for 12 weeks, and it's the highest-grossing Japanese film to release in China, which is interesting. Little cultural clash there. And it's a great piece of work. It's heady, it's touching, it's about this teen boy and girl who kind of are from different backgrounds. They discover that they can swap bodies, and then we kind of realize that maybe there's a space-time continuum thing going on here. And because Hollywood is the most amazing and wonderful thing in the entire universe, every day we're getting a remake, or a live-action, whatever, imagining, I guess, from J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. Putting aside the fact that J.J. Abrams is a solid producer and gets behind good, material, product, whatever you want to call it, content. Has there ever been anything more unnecessary than this? Because here, and actually, while we're on Arrival, Eric Heiserer is going to write the screenplay, and he wrote Arrival, and he was nominated for that. But here's the thing: this movie is Japanese, and by that I mean that it is a specifically Japanese story. So we've heard some interesting things from Heiserer, who's basically said that, he can't tell what his meanings were, but he said that his pitch didn't involve white characters, which is a good sign, because they're not going to, whitewash all the roles and make this an American story, because, again, it's a Japanese movie, and it's specifically tied to Japanese culture. So to try to switch it to American culture, try to find something, there that can be switched to American culture and American history would be weird. But I just don't see the need for this, because it was a huge box office success in its country. It's going to be coming to Blu-ray soon, I hope. And whenever it does, it's probably going to be a big seller on that, because people love anime. I just don't understand why they're remaking this, or bringing this to live action. I don't get it. I think that it's kind of, I'm basically, maybe it's the fact that Death Note came out and I'm still hurting and receiving nightmares and waking up in a cold sweat in memory of that. I don't know, but I just have so much here that's just like a big red sign that says don't make this, because just it's an iconic movie now. It really is. It's taken the world by storm, and we just need that movie. Just have that movie, and we're fine. We don't need an American version of this. We don't need a live action version of this. Honestly, a live action version of this would be ridiculous. It would be impossible to make a lot of this movie actually believable and not cartoonish already. And it's an animated story. It's an animated story, and I just don't understand what they're trying to do here. I just can't get my head around this. Are you able to, Chase?
You know what's weird is that you're right. It's inevitable for remakes to happen. I have never in my life had a movie on my top 10 of the year list currently still on that list, and it's already being remade. I've never had that happen. Like, Joel's right. We just saw this movie like 6 months ago. Like, why the hell are we remaking this? Like, I don't get it. Because you're right. The thing about the movie that makes it so special is it's from Japan. It has that Japanese culture. It has that anime flair to it. The story is epic in scope, but it fits the animation medium. If you switch this to white people, you switch it to America, and you make it as epic as it was in the animated movie, it's gonna look like a teenage romance novel, and it just I'm already picturing it. I'm just like, it's gonna look so cheesy and shitty, and I'm just stop it, just fucking stop it. But you are right though. Like J.J. Abrams, like he produces some really great content. One of my favorite things he's ever produced and put his name on, besides the Cloverfield universe, I absolutely love everything they do with that, is when he did Stephen King's 11/22/63. The guy knows how to produce stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is, Joel and I saw a wonderful anime earlier this year that is currently on our list right now. That's why we're angry. It's because we haven't even had time to let this marinate yet. Like, it's still on our list, for Christ's sake. So it's just so weird and, like you said, unnecessary. If they make it all white people and it's set in America, it's gonna honestly feel like a Hunger Games novel or like a Divergent movie. I'm already picturing now like a Twilight. It's gonna look so bad. Listen, I don't implore people to see anime that much because I realize it's a very specific taste. Please see Your Name. I think it will be accessible to everyone in terms of everyone's palates. Like it's comedic, it's touching and heartwarming. It's epic in scope. Joel and I are trying to tiptoe around it because it's a story that I didn't even expect, because it kind of goes to this like
much of it relies on well, not twists but surprises in the narrative.
Yeah. But those twists and surprises, like, they just elevate the emotional tension even more, and it's absolutely spectacular. So please, if you don't like anime, give this one a shot. I think you'll like it. It's very, like I said, it's very charming and funny in the beginning because of the circumstance, and then it kind of delves into this like deeper thing with like this really strong bond that two people share. So please check it out, and that's all we're gonna say about it. But yeah, J.J. Abrams is not the problem. It's the fact that we haven't even let this movie like sink into the culture yet. It's just like it, because Joel's right. It was a very huge success. I still remember hearing stories about it, even with my screening. Even in Texas, there were 20 people in that theater. Like, so people are interested. Don't remake this shit. So yeah, no, thank you. Just stop it. So, Joel, I think you already alluded to it, but your favorite news story was Don Quixote, right?
Yeah, I think so, because of just how long it's been kind of happening, and now that it's actually going to happen and come out, I just couldn't be more thrilled for the guy. He's been trying to make it happen for 20 years, and now he's actually shooting it. I suspect that every day when he wakes up and shoots more stuff, it's like some surreal thing that he's actually getting to do this. So I just couldn't be more thrilled for the guy. That's definitely my favorite bit of news. With a close second being, of course, Clifford the Big Red Dog.
I mean, you were gonna steal it away from me. Clifford the Big Red Dog is like probably my most anticipated of all time. No, I'd probably go just Denis Villeneuve, and just the fact that people are attaching him to multiple projects, and he's willing to take them on. And like Joel said, he rocks them out in a year, and it's like, this guy is very precise. He's got a great eye, and yet all of his films are all fucking different, which is awesome. You can't really say that about many directors, so that's really cool. So what about you guys?
I really hope that what happens, he's worked with Deakins 3 times now, Roger Deakins, and I kind of want Roger Deakins to shoot Cleopatra. I think that would be the most fun thing, even if he doesn't shoot.
Well, Joel, this is actually perfect that you brought that up, because if that trailer for Blade Runner is anything like the movie, Roger Deakins has got the Oscar in the bag, which means he will get more work, which means he will probably be attached to Cleopatra. So, it's full circle, ladies and gentlemen.
He'll probably take a one movie break from Villeneuve, do something, in the 2018 arena. With somebody else, and then I hope that he gets attached to Cleopatra, because I think that he needs to do a big, gigantic... He worked on, and I haven't seen it, but he worked one time with Scorsese, and that was Kundun in 1997, which was a big, lavish, set in an Eastern country movie, and I think that he would be perfect for that, Cleopatra. I'm now picturing that, him working with a lot of, a lot of the settings of the Middle East, it just would be perfect.
Joel, just in due time, sir. Just let him win the Oscar, and then he's going to get so many offers, it'll be
He probably does
ridiculous.
have that Oscar in the bag, by the way, for Blade Runner. I think that this is his year to finally win. He has been nominated so many times.
Listen, it's not his fault. He's been knocked out by Lubeski 3 fucking times now.
Yeah.
So it just so happened that he was going up against Lubeski. Lubeski's gone off the face of the map now because he won 3 in a row. I don't blame him. So Roger Deakins has got in the bag. But what about you guys? What is your favorite news story? Please comment down below. Trailers. Nothing came out. We have a teaser and we have a Netflix trailer. What the hell, Hollywood? Can you please release more stuff? Joel, did you like Ex Machina when it came out?
I did, maybe a little less than a lot of other people, but I thought it was solid. It kind of loses its way in the last bit, honestly. It becomes this weird chamber drama that I think that the ideas... Mark Dusick, who's a colleague of mine, put it really well, that all of the ideas in the movie were used to move the plot forward. They didn't really breathe. There really wasn't a point beyond themselves in any specific way. And I thought that kind of hurt it, but it is quite the production. The visual effects are amazing.
Well, and speaking of the visual effects, regardless of what you think of the movie, it is pretty cool that like a smaller film won visual effects. Yeah.
I cannot tell you the shock. I was watching the ceremony with some friends of mine, and I cannot tell you the shockwave that sent through us. That over Mad Max and Star Wars and whatever else was nominated. Was it Ant-Man? No, it wasn't. Avengers, I can't remember. I actually don't think Marvel was nominated that year, but anyway, whatever it was, it won over the big dogs, and it was amazing to watch that happen. It was very worthy because they were my favorite visual effects that year as well. And he has a follow-up, Alex Garland, the director, and it's called Annihilation. This one stars Natalie Portman, and this one looks really interesting. Basically, it seems like there's some sort of, borderline kind of carbon produced kind of. What is this movie about?
Well, and that's what's really cool about the teaser is we don't know much, but we have this kind of like Ex Machina like tone to it, which is great because it kind of like bleeds over into it, which I'm totally fine with. Let's keep it under wraps. I don't want to know much.
A few more visual effects than Ex Machina.
Yeah, it's actually a way bigger production budget.
From
Paramount, actually. They're taking another risk again. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Which is great because they need to take risks in the midst of, sending out their toy movies with the Transformers. But yeah, whatever it's about, this looks really interesting. It looks like a departure for Natalie Portman. I mean, I know that she's played some pretty terrific roles recently, but this is unusual for her. This is a departure. She hasn't really done major non space opera sci-fi. So that'll be interesting to see, unless you want to count V for Vendetta, but I wouldn't. But yeah, the tone here that it captures is one that's it's going to be a very dark movie, I think. Ex Machina was, and it looks exciting. It looks really intriguing. It looks like Garland's kind of stretching a bit as a director. That's very, very neat. He worked for years as a successful screenwriter, and now he's breaking into making movies. And obviously, when he was going to direct, he wanted to direct sci-fi. That's very clear because he's made two, and he wanted to direct low-key sci-fi because while there are a lot of special effects here, it does seem a little more low-key. It's not a Star Wars, but it's not a Rival either. It's a little more somewhere in between those. And yeah, I'm very excited for this one. It looks like a solid follow-up.
Yeah, it's really cool how Alex Garland tackles sci-fi, where he makes this kind of slick look to it, but it's also it got some really great philosophical stuff to it. Like with Ex Machina, there was really great monologues, whether it was with Domhnall Gleeson or Oscar Isaac, or when they were talking to Alicia Vikander. It was a really intriguing sci-fi film, but also had a really kind of slick look to it. And this looks exactly like that. So, in Ex Machina, he tackled AI, and this one looks like he's going to tackle alien life almost. We don't know. I honestly don't know what it's about, but that's what's cool. I love going into the shit, just being like, I like the visuals. I like everything that's set up. Natalie Portman is really great. So it's like, let's do this. Joel, I honestly don't want to talk about this movie ever again. I just want to watch it. I don't want to talk about the trailer follow-up. I don't. But I think you bring up a really great point about Paramount, man. Listen, the Transformers movies are garbage. Also, I'm trying to think of the other... Mission Impossible. That's a great franchise. They need that type of money to funnel this shit. And also with Mother and Silence and stuff. So, listen... I harp on Paramount quite a bit because they put out some crap, but I am so glad they're putting out these kind of risky projects because regardless if you like them or not, they got some balls to put this shit out, especially with Mother and Silence didn't even really do that well, and religious people were just not really into it, and then of course now with this one, it's this looks like it's going to be at least $100 million, so it's Paramount. I hate what you do with the Transformers, but if it brings you money to do this shit, I will support Transformers then. So I will now support Michael Bay. So yeah, I really do like this teaser. It sets up the tone you want. It sets up the intrigue, the mystery, and I am for it because it comes out, what was it, March?
No, it's February 23rd.
Ooh, February, so we get it even earlier. So fantastic. Speaking of getting stuff pretty soon, Joel, I don't know if you saw the first one, but the trailer to the sequel has come out earlier this week. What am I talking about exactly? I'm talking about the Jason Blumhouse production, Mark Duplass starring, Patrick Brice directed, Creep 2. This one was kind of like a cult hit from last year. I like the first one. I do think it's a nice little fun kind of turn for Mark Duplass to be this creepy motherfucker, prancing around in the woods and whatnot. I've met Mark Duplass before. I've met Patrick Brice before, and it's really interesting to hear him talk about low-budget filmmaking and just if you want to get a film done, you go do that. And that's exactly what these, the first Creep was, and the second Creep, it just looks like two guys came up with this idea, this horror idea, shot it in the woods, and now here we are. And like I said, the first one was a huge cult hit. This thing came out of nowhere, and like I said, I liked it, but everyone in our film circle that Joel and I are a part of, people love the first Creep. But like I said, it was a very fun movie to watch Mark Duplass just to kind of go crazy. I like kind of Patrick Brice's just kind of directing style. It's very simple but effective. He did that movie The Overnight. I thought the movie was whatever, but I like the way he kind of shot around L.A. and this mansion that the film takes place in. Of course, he did the first Creep and whatnot. And I've talked to him and interviewed him and whatnot, and he's a very passionate dude and whatnot. And Mark is the same way. So I'm excited for this. I actually think it's got some interesting creepy haunted house cinematography going on, which is exactly what the first one was like. So yeah, it's supposed to be like, a found footage film, but they do utilize the found footage aspect to create some pretty uncomfortable scenes. But that's the whole point of it. Is Creep 2. So Joel, I have to ask you, because I don't think we've ever talked about this. Did you see the first Creep? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And then are you looking forward to the sequel after seeing the trailer?
I did. I really liked the first movie. The atmosphere that Patrick Brice was able to muster was considerable, and I really liked the performance from Mark Duplass. The sequel looks good, but I gotta tell you, I don't really see the point. I mean, I see the point to the movie in the trailer, but I just feel like I would rather have them make another original movie rather than follow this one up, just because I feel like they made their point with the first movie. Maybe they have another point to make, and that's what they're gonna do with the second one. It does look interesting, though. It looks creepy. I like the concept, which is
they're doing the Human Centipede 2 route, and I know that it's going to turn people off, but
yeah, where the first movie exists in this universe. It's interesting. I just feel like I'm gonna wait to see it, because I just feel like there's something missing in terms of something that's leading me to more anticipation. But nevertheless, I did like the first one, so I'll certainly check this one out.
I know this is going to sound very weird, Joel, but I honestly do think the longer hair helps Mark Duplass a lot, because in the first one he has shorter hair, and yeah, he does provide some pretty unsettling moments, but dude, he's got like long, greasy hair in this one, and it actually makes his character more effective. So I'm down for it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. He's clearly been like wallowing or something in the last couple of years.
He's sitting and stewing in his own filth.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's not changed. He's apparently gotten worse. It's very interesting. The end of the first movie, I won't give it away, but the end of the first movie was just about one of the bleakest things I've ever seen. So it'll be interesting to see them like confront that. When does she find out this new character? It's interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. But like, it comes around the Halloween season on Netflix, so get your...
certainly gonna watch that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That will be definitely a Netflix film that I will check out. And once again, just so I can plug it again, Gerald's Game, check it out. It's fantastic. Netflix be pumping out some good shit. Anyways, that is the trailers, because there wasn't many trailers. So obviously, Joel, is it between a teaser or a full trailer? Which one was your favorite?
I'm gonna say Annihilation is the better of the two. But, I mean, both really solid trailers, I would say, even though there were only two of them.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to have a full week now. We're going to have a bunch of trailers come this week. That's what I just...
Oh, dude, that since Blade Runner is the spectacle film, we're going to have so many studios wanting some of that airtime in front of the movie, so you can bet your fucking ass that we're going to be covering a whole lot more of this coming week. And since a Blade Runner is coming out, do not be surprised, since it is a month and a half away, if Warner Brothers wanted to push and do a final trailer for Justice League. You can bet your ass on that.
And then also, it's for the following week after that, but on October 9th, Mark Hamill tweeted to somebody, I don't know if you saw this, but Mark Hamill tweeted to somebody, and then it was removed, to watch Monday Night Football on October 9th, because I believe that's when the Star Wars trailer is going to drop. So,
I think so, too, because it'd be on schedule. Like the Force Awakens, right. They dropped their trailer in October.
They did it the second weekend or whatever, yeah. So I'm excited for that. A lot of trailers coming out, for sure.
Yeah, so expect to see some big stuff happening. And since My Little Pony's coming out, you might laugh at it, but we'll probably get some big animated trailers as well, so look forward to that shit. Yeah. So, so what about you guys? And Creep 2 is my favorite. Okay. That's just because you know me, I'm a Jason Blum fanatic. Anyways, did you guys when you see any other trailers online that we missed? Like, please let us know. All right, so let's get into the movie reviews, guys. We're going to start with American Made first, and then we'll kind of delve from there. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it off the top, because usually Joel and I do not tell each other what we think of the movies. However, we did a dual review for the website that we do reviews for, and so I already know what he thinks of this. So guess what, folks? Mommy and Daddy are going to have a fight because we are going to differ on American Made. But Joel, I don't want to tell people who thinks, what of it. So, I want people to kind of ease into it and be like, oh shit, does Joel hate it? Does Joel like it? So we're going to kind of tease you guys a little bit, but I'm sure just the inflections in our voices and when we talk about the negatives is going to be the clear giveaway in terms of who likes it
Probably
and who hates
so.
it. All right, so American Made. Joel, would you like to describe what the film is about and who is behind this film?
Yeah, so this is the new film from director Doug Liman. It stars Tom Cruise as Barry Seal, who was a pilot for Trans World Airlines in the early 1970s. And he was then hired on, or I guess contracted by the CIA to fly reconnaissance flights over South America, take pictures with a little camera, how they do. And ultimately, he was also then sort of drafted into the Iran-Contra affair. And then he was approached by the Medellin cartel to run cocaine for them in the midst of all this. So he was kind of like this double, triple, quadruple agent. Very interesting life. And I was excited for this because it comes from the director, who started out the Bourne series. He made Edge of Tomorrow, a.k.a. Live, Die, Repeat, whatever you choose to call it, even though it is Edge of Tomorrow. He also did, I didn't see it, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith. He made Fair Game several years ago with Sean Penn and Naomi Watts. Lots of solid stuff, and also Jumper. But nevertheless, I was excited. Tom Cruise is one of my favorite actors, whether as a movie star or just as an actor. I think he does solid work in both modes. And, so I was really excited. And guys, I guess I'll reveal it here. I didn't like this movie at all.
Well, thank you for the teasing and leading up to that, you a-hole. Listen, these people, these beautiful listeners that we have, they were probably sitting there listening like, oh, they're probably going to talk about it for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll drop it, and Joel's like, fuck that, I'm going to jump in there, fam. So, all right, thanks, Joel.
No problem at all. All right, I guess I'll hand it over to you for your initial thoughts.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to this movie, to be quite honest with you. I do like Doug Liman, though, and what he brought with Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, and the fact that it actually turned out to be a sci-fi action dramedy. Like, it was such a weird mix of genres, but it actually worked, and it was surprising.
It made my top 10 that year.
Yeah, it was a garbage trailer, but man, that movie was surprising as hell. So,
I was not looking forward to that movie. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so with American Made, I wasn't looking forward to it, but when you watch the trailers, it kind of has like this big, short documentary type of feel. So I was like, okay, so maybe they can go for something like that, and maybe it could be fun and entertaining and whatnot. So I liked it. It's fine. It's an entertaining movie. I think Joel and I will agree on the issues, but the issues of the film don't really hinder my grade for me. I know it's gonna be very weird, but just hear me out. Because of the way the film is delivered, I guess, in a more entertaining aspect. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but I will say that I liked it way more than Joel. I had a fun time in the theater, and here's the kicker. I don't want to watch it again. I do hinder my grade a lot on if it got some rewatchability factor to it. I do not want to ever rewatch this movie again. So yeah, I like it. Joel does not. So let's do the positives and get out of the way, because the negatives, I think we're going to have a bigger conversation about. So the positives for me, this is very simple, and Joel will probably disagree. Tom Cruise is great. He's charismatic. He drives the movie, and what's really funny about his performance is that he's a normal person at the beginning. He turns into kind of an idiot in the middle of the movie, but towards the end, kind of felt for the guy. And that's what Tom Cruise does. Like, he will command the screen, he will have your attention, and he will take you through this journey, take you through this roller coaster through of a movie or whatever, and be charismatic while he's doing it. I enjoyed his performance. It's not going to be for everyone. I'm not saying he's going to win an Oscar. Not going to say he's going to be nominated, Joel. I'm just saying that he was entertaining enough to carry the film from start to finish. Doug Liman's vision for the film, with the handy cam, kind of like haphazard editing, if you will, was good to a point. I will say that I enjoy the urgency of the cinematography. I enjoy the kind of like in the moment, like putting the audience in that flavor. Almost like, hey, you are part of this journey, so I'm going to have it more handheld with like these hard zooms and whatnot to make it look like you're on The Office. I'm not saying it's a perfect style, but it fits this type of like chaotic story, this zaniness that's ensuing in front of you. The cinematography work is fine enough, and Doug Liman does add a distinct vision to it. It could have just been a normal movie, but he adds this sense of energy to the camera work, the performances, and the overall flow of the movie, which I'll get into the negatives because that is a negative as well. The flow of the movie is entertaining. It keeps you occupied for 2 hours. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that we'll get into the editing in just a second, but as far as the actual pace of the film and the flow, the entertainment value, Doug Liman does have something there, and it's noticeable. I'm not saying that this, like I said, this film is not gonna be for everyone. It doesn't have any rewatch value. It's really hard to explain, but I'll try to explain better in the negatives. But as far as the positives, the overall style that he has is fine. Tom Cruise is the better part about the movie. Domhnall Gleeson is fun. All these people look like they're having a fun time with the movie, but the negatives do hinder it just a hair, and I'll get into that when we get into it. But, and the music. The music was really cool, and the retro style of the 80s and adding that kind of like film grain to it, especially with the opening logos. I thought that was a nice touch that also goes along with Doug Liman's vision. So that's all my positives. And then negatives, I'm sure Joel and I will have a lot to talk about. But in terms of positives, Joel, is there like anything, literally anything that you liked about the movie?
I did. The big positive was the music, as you just said. I thought it was jazzy and fresh and fun. The opening titles, as you said, was really neat to see those come up. I thought that Domhnall Gleeson was a lot of fun. That's how you say the name, by the way. Domhnall, not Domhnall. I was just going to say that.
I honestly do not care because I'm never going to meet the man.
But yeah, Domhnall Gleeson was fun. I thought that.
Look at Joel. Look at Joel like trying to struggle right now. Like you can hear it in his voice. He's like, I honestly don't know what to say right now.
I don't know. No, it was funny because I didn't expect to see her in the movie, even though I saw her in the trailer. But Jayma Mays has a brief appearance here that was really fun as this DEA agent who's kind of immediately comes up against a brick wall when trying to prosecute him for anything. It's a really fun scene, and he's trying to bribe the officers outside the room. And anyway, that was a fun scene.
It is actually a very surprisingly funny movie. Like, there's actually some good laughs in the movie.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff. There's some funny stuff despite the movie itself. But nevertheless.
Wow, that's it for you?
That's pretty much it.
So let's get.
I did not like the cinematography, which is sad because. Wow. And I'll get into why. I'm just mentioning it from yours, but which is sad because the cinematographer is César Charlone, who was nominated for an Oscar for City of God back in 2003, which is an amazing movie. One of actually Roger Ebert's favorite movies ever, or something. And he shot that one. It was very much in this style. Generally speaking, a lot of shutter zooms and canted angles, Dutch angles as well, and a lot of quick speed, a lot of that, and it just doesn't work here. But I'll get into that later. But that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's just address the elephant in the room. There's a lot of negatives, and I will attribute it to three of them. And you're probably like, when you hear my grade, you're gonna be like, well, if you have problems with this, why'd you rate it so high? It's because it was entertaining, it was fun. Fucking sue me. However, there are three things that hindered this movie quite a bit. One, supporting characters and how they just kind of come in and out of the movie and literally have no impact. Two is the editing. My God, are these transitions between scenes pretty rough. And also, Joel will understand this, but there's a thing within the first 10 minutes where this is literally how the cut goes. Tom Cruise is sitting in a diner. Then it cuts to him screwing his wife 3 different times, and it cuts back to him in the diner, and I'm like, what was the point of that edit? So the editing is very, very rough. And when you're talking about transitional edits between scenes to create this flow, it works like 50% of the time. The other times, it's like something happens, and then we're just cutting going on to something else. Okay, we're not going to have anything like marinate or like anything sit. You know what I'm saying? It's just constant movement, and there's no time for anything to kind of, stew a little bit. It's just kind of like we have to get this movie going and stuff. And the biggest problem with the movie, Barry Seal was an interesting guy. This movie requires more of his story, not a highlighted reel. This is what this movie is. It's just a highlighted reel of this guy's life. This is not, a movie that, like Joel said, like he's a pilot, and then like he gets into the CIA, and he gets into, Pablo Escobar. No, this is literally like he is a pilot, then he's in the CIA, then he's Pablo Escobar, and then he's working with the fucking White House, and it's like, can we slow down a little bit? This story is so crazy. From what this guy did, this movie deserves a more drawn-out type of film, where it's not like a highlighted segment of this guy's run. I wanted to see every nook and cranny of this guy's life because it's so interesting and so crazy to witness on screen that I did get a little frustrated when it is just, while they might be entertaining, just highlighted segments of what this guy did. It deserved a more drawn-out kind of dramatical like tale of what this guy did. Honestly, I would like I wish it was longer in that regard. Like, it is too short because it tries to get this movie in and out as fast as possible. I wanted to see more of what this guy's life was. I wanted to see more of his family life. I wanted to see more of the White House stuff, which was only like the last like 10 minutes of the movie. There was a lot to him. So many layers. And so what Doug Liman did very inappropriately was take layers, out of order. And just be like, all right, let's show a little bit of this. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's show a little bit of this. Enough of that. So that's the biggest issue, is that this is, it's a segmented film, not an actual narrative. And then, of course, the side characters really irked me. There's one character in particular, Joel knows who I'm talking about. He shows up in the middle of the movie, and then he's just gone. Like, 15 minutes later. And did he need to be there? Nope. Also, this isn't spoiling anything because you don't know what the context is or what he does. Why the fuck was Jesse Plemons in this movie? He literally shows up, he says like 2 lines, and then he's gone. And I'm like, okay, what was the point of that shit? Do you see what I'm talking about? There's so much intrigue from this story. I wanted to see it drawn out. I wanted stuff to
Until you mentioned Jesse Plemons, I had forgotten that he was in it.
Do you see what I'm fucking saying?
I saw this movie 3 weeks ago, guys, so some of it's leaking out of my brain. I seem to remember Lola Kirk, who was from Mistress America, the main girl. Yeah.
No clue.
She was the other cop, I think, and yeah.
And that's pretty much it for me. I do think the story of this guy's life is the biggest issue with it. And once again, when you hear my grade, you're going to be like, well, this is a storytelling medium. Why the fuck are you getting it so high? Because I will say, whether it is a haphazard mess or not, I was entertained and I was never bored by it. And I gotta be honest with you, when the end of the film happened, I will just say that, because I won't tell you whether he gets caught or he gets killed or whatever. I thought that was a pretty, like, depressing, ballsy kind of, like, little editing technique they did with a couple of shots. I was like, oh, I like that. It's not going to, like, hinder my grade. I just, as a nerd, like, I was like, ooh, that was kind of cool.
It's going to hinder mine.
Yeah. No, that's okay, because you're going to talk about the tonal shifting, and, like, I totally get that. I'm totally on your side, Joel. I'm not against you, but I will say that I enjoyed it way more than you did. Not saying it's a masterpiece. I will say it's a strong rental if you're curious, but that's as far as I'll go. But Joel, please elaborate, sir. Everything about this film that just irks you.
Yeah, it's almost everything. So, starting at the top, I'm going to just say it. I did not like Tom Cruise in this movie. I don't think it's a fun performance. I think he seems exhausted, and now twice in a row this year we've been given Tom Cruise performances in roles that don't fit him. I don't think that he fits this role. I think that we needed somebody like Brad Pitt to play him. Whether or not he looked like the role or not, that's never an issue for me. And or just somebody else, basically. I think that he just seemed very tired. You could see the lines in his face more clearly. He seemed a little bored to me, and I thought that because of that, he gave this really non-committal, just basically it seemed like he spent more time trying to modulate his accent than perform as the role, and the accent was pretty off and on, and it just came across as bored to me, and that was a big problem because it's the face of the movie. So yeah, that was disappointing. And then, like you said, a lot of the side characters, Jesse Plemons and Lola Kirk, basically showing up to do nothing, even though I feel like they were genuinely involved in the story. I'm going to get into that in a second, that phenomenon. But yeah, they were very distracting. Caleb Landry Jones shows up in the movie as not a person I'm going to talk about, but as kind of a Southern hick stereotype. It was really like bizarre and not very effective to me.
It's almost like the movie halted. Like it was very bizarre.
It was very bizarre, and we're going to get into the tonal shift with that element soon. Actually, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and get into that. So here's the thing with the story, as you were talking about, and it's tied to the tonal shift. This story is a fascinating one, and there are entire heaps upon heaps of context and avenues in the story that are ignored in Gary Spinelli's screenplay. Doug Liman was only able to bring to life maybe the first 10 minutes, and then I think that he got kind of caught up in just telling the story point by point without any consideration for any points in that story. And that was my major problem. He basically takes, and I put it in the last sentence of my review that's going up tomorrow morning on my website. He basically takes this very dramatic story and drains all of the significance out of it. It ends up just being this Cliff's Note version of the real story, which had a lot more going on than what we see here. And once, let's say, Barry Seal's story ends, there's a lot of stuff after that happens that still, that still regards him, and particularly the Iran-Contra affair, which is given one line of dialogue. And it's just annoying. I kept feeling like I was watching, it's not even Cliff's Notes, it's like a Cliff's Notes version of the Cliff's Notes version of the story, because you get little pieces here and there that are of interest. Mostly, I think it's just Doug Liman trying to film this with a big showboaty style, and that's where I'm going to take issue with calling the editing, and a lot of people have, not just you, but a lot of people have called the editing urgent. I don't think it's urgent at all. I think it's flashy, and that's it. I don't think that there's a lick of urgency in this movie. And that's the problem. There's a major tonal problem here where sometimes it's this weird, like, goofy comedy about how he's riding a bike while covered with cocaine. And then other times you have two characters, terrible fates told in this very dramatic style that's very sudden. And then you switch to a scene that's comedic. And that's a major problem. That messes up the entire structure of the movie. The way that it plays is as this jazzy comedy meets this tragic thriller, and it just doesn't work because what he's doing is, like you said, he's trying to fit this story into less than 2 hours, and it's 111 minutes. It's less than 2 hours. It's a story that requires about 2.5. And I just gotta say, I think that it's flashy but empty. It's really not saying anything about this story beyond what we see. It's not making a commentary about the drug trade. It's not making a commentary about Barry Seal's life. It's not making a commentary about what his actions represented, and what they meant at all. It's not insightful. It's just this flashy thriller comedy, and it uses a real life subject to basically just kind of be this really like just flashy, jumpy, empty nonsense. And I just did not get it. I know that it's super popular. It's got like an 85% or something on Rotten Tomatoes. People love it, and I just am baffled. I feel like a lot of people forgave the movie for a lot of things because at the right time in the fall, a Tom Cruise movie where he plays a real character and is directed by the guy who made The Bourne Identity came out, and it just is baffling to me that there are these heaps and heaps and heaps of problems that are structural, that are tonal, that are intentional, that are not intentional but related to intent, that are just fundamental issues that are really hard for me to ignore. It was sluggish and slow, despite the fact that it was flashy and quippy, and the editing is just a disaster. It's just the cinematography is awful. I don't know. I just did not like this movie. I'm ending this kind of in a whimper, but that's my thoughts on the negatives here. It just was filled with them. I just did not get this. Did not get this movie at all. I can respect the opposite opinion. I just am baffled by it, honestly. So I'll hand it over to you for your final thoughts and grade.
Yeah, no, I mean, Joel's right. Most people are enjoying this film. I'm not saying it's a classic or anything, because it's not. It's not going to even go down at the Oscars, because it's not. This is a film that will not be remembered, but I will say that we'll take this over The Mummy any day of the week. Because The Mummy
barely for me. But
The Mummy is atrocious. So Tom Cruise, you're not doing well this year. Get help, buddy. No, I can't wait for MI6. No, it's one of those things to where it's an in the moment movie. We're like in the moment for that 2 hours, Joel. God damn it, I enjoyed myself. Even though really? I adhere to the problems.
Slogged by, felt like 3 hours.
I understand the problems. I enjoyed myself. So, even with my issues, I'm giving it a very heavy B-. Because its entertainment value is at least something admirable, that I had fun in the theater. There were some genuine laughs, regardless of the tonal clashing. I didn't find the tonal clashing to be that upsetting, to be honest with you, because maybe Tom Cruise sold it for me. I have no clue. Joel, this is one of those weird experiences where I didn't have, a problem with the experience. I have a problem more technical issues. So it's like, it's weird for me. But B-, I'm going to settle on it. I don't want to ever talk about this movie again because Joel's turning red over there. So, Joel, final thoughts and grade.
Entertainment value was negligible. It was barely there, and I'm going to give this a D+.
Okay, and so we're not too far off. It's like a grade and a half.
I gave The Mummy a D, so it's just barely above it. And this was not a good year for the Cruise. Well,
you know what is a good year is the movies that you're about to review. That was a terrible transition, but you know what I mean. So, Joel, could you explain to the people out there what? Because I didn't reveal this in the intro. What surprise kind of mini reviews are you doing?
Yeah, so actually it's really one half of a good year, and if you're going to talk about the two movies I'm reviewing, but
oh shit.
The first one is Trophy. This is a documentary from director Shaw Schwartz and co-director Christina Clusio, and it is about the world of trophy hunting in Africa. And this is, I'm just going to say it, one of the very, very best movies of the year. And in fact, I'm going to do my negatives first. Are you ready? here are my negatives. All right, so now the positives. Uh, nah, I'm not doing that style of review. I'm just going to review it real quick. I'm making these little short reviews that are 5 minutes. I'm just going to run through my review. So this one is about the world of trophy hunting. We follow several subjects. There's a hunter who really, really, really wants to go to Africa to hunt a rhino. And here's the thing. Hunting costs a lot of money in Africa. In fact, to do this, to hunt a rhino, you have to pay $100,000. And yeah, so this it's immersing us in this world of trophy hunting, and it's emotionally rich. It provides a lot of complex emotions, which are really, really important for reasons I'll state in a second. Here's the thing: I am not going. And then also there's like a farmer who has an interesting role in this that's very unclear. And it's not clear for a while in the movie until the end. It's very interesting. And there's the actual like dealers who sort of deal with the people who want to hunt. They're the ones who set the prices. There's a guy named John Hume who has found a way to take the horn off of a rhino while it's still alive by cutting it off like a barbarian and selling it, because it is worth more than gold and heroin combined, except that he cannot sell it. That's the catch. He cannot sell it on the market. So here you have a lot of really complex emotional avenues to explore, and it does every single one of them. So that at the end, the last scene in the movie, and I'm not going to provide any context as to who this is, but I'm just going to say that this gives you an idea of what kind of movie this is. It ends with a man's wailing cry of desperation, and it earns that moment, because there are a couple of moments here that feel a little bit scripted, kind of almost as if like the person said the thing and then the director said, "Say that again." There are a couple of moments like that, but this is not one of those. That's one of those kinds of documentaries. It gets you into this. It gets you angry at the process of trophy hunting, because like this hunter that I was talking about isn't. He's a conservative, let's just say, and he's a Christian. He's a conservative. The Bible states that man has dominion over all creatures on the earth, and his way of having dominion is to kill them for fun. And you just get a real sense of the context that brought this man to that point in his life. And again, that's what kind of documentary this is. It considers everybody. It considers every one of their situations. It provides us with complex humans rather than just, nameless subjects. And it follows very few people so that it's not, bombarded with a bunch of talking heads. Very few talking heads. It mostly follows them around, quite literally. And it's just emotionally, it hits you at the end. It's one of the best movies of the year, and I loved every second of it. So I'm giving Trophy an A. If you love documentaries, I love documentaries. I know Chase loves documentaries. Great documentaries can be better than fiction. They can be more exciting. I can't imagine watching a fictional version of a story like this and being as hit by it emotionally. We're seeing real people with real stakes involved. There's also the entire, economic system in Africa is affected by this, because it's killing them. It's killing them. It's killing the animals that they need to provide sustenance, and you even get some insight into why the trophy hunters don't care. That's the kind of documentary this is. It considers all sides. It tells us. It gets us into this. This would have been high up on Ebert's list. This would have been a movie that he loved, and he was hard on documentaries. He had a high standard for them, and this is one of the best I've seen in a while. So anybody, if you can find this somewhere playing near you, or I'm sure that's probably going to go to Netflix. I think it's from The Orchard, and they seem to send their stuff there.
Which is funny you mention that, because Netflix put out The Ivory Game last year.
Yeah. I feel like this is something that they're gonna. I mean, not obviously not distribute, but they're gonna probably jump at the chance to put this on Netflix as something later in the year, just so that people can watch it. And it's terrific. It's I got choked up, and that's hard to do for me. I didn't expect to with this documentary. I knew what it was about, but I didn't expect to get so invested in these lives. And I didn't choke up at an expected moment either. That's the kind of documentary this is. So it's one of the best films of the year, certain to probably be in my top five, honestly. And I'm very close to an A plus. It's really something special. So I'm giving Trophy an A. The other movie that I have a review for you guys is Victoria and Abdul. This is the new movie from director Stephen Frears, who's a pretty prolific guy. I mean, he's been kind of working in a specific mode recently where he works with actresses of a certain caliber, sends them to the Oscars with a nomination, essentially, with stuff like Florence Foster Jenkins, Philomena, the Queen. But, I mean, he also put Jack Black on the map with High Fidelity back in 2000. That's one of my favorite movies that year. It's terrific. He directed The Grifters with Annette Bening, John Cusack, and Angelica Houston back in 1990. It was a movie about con artists adapted from Jim Thompson's novel. And he directed Dangerous Liaison. This guy does a lot of stuff, not just prestige movies with actresses, again, of a certain caliber. But this is certainly one of his more recent work. It's about Queen Victoria in the late 1890s as she befriends an unlikely person, and that is an Indian who has been sent to be her manservant, even though he's not a manservant naturally in his country. He's been sent to India to present her with a ceremonial coin called a kohur, and is instructed, and this is important to say, is instructed not to keep eye contact with her because, of course, she's the queen, she's regal, and he's just, the lowly Indian. And he does make eye contact with her, and it actually jumpstarts an interesting friendship that is sort of based on the fact that they are both lonely. He has a wife, but he just kind of writes people and crimes into a book in a jail back home. She's this monarch who has lost everything and everyone that ever really mattered to her, and now she's isolated in this position of power. And it's basically like the movie is essentially the Judi Dench show in terms of the fact that it's basically premised around this performance. She's played Queen Victoria before in a movie I got to see. It's called Mrs. Brown. She was nominated for that. And I suspect she's probably going to be nominated for this again, or this role again this year, because she is good. She's able to humanize a role that's hard to humanize. It's this bigger than life role, and unfortunately, though, she's kind of the only really notable thing about this movie. It's kind of dull, to be honest. It's very unengaging, except in the last 10 minutes. I will say that there is, we get a sense of the human there. There's a very good final moment in her performance that's probably going to be the Oscar clip, and it's a really fine moment, but it's like a weird mix, sort of like American Made. I think it's a problem of being a weird mix of this sort of period drama and then this wacky comedy of manners where nobody else in the household can tolerate the Indian having eventually a position in the household as her spiritual teacher, and then this period drama where everything is very serious with between them and their friendship, and it's just a weird like mix of tones, and obviously the positives are the production design's amazing. It recreates the her castle circa 1890 in a very rich, beautiful way. The costumes are great. It's obviously going to be nominated for those things, and for Judi Dench, she's really good here. But it's very flat, unengaging, and so I'm giving Victoria and Abdul a C-. kind of low, it seems, but it's just a very flat, uh, dull movie. So I know that Chase is going to run out to see it on his very limited budget, and I'm just kidding. But yeah, so those are the two movies that I had extra reviews for you guys, and I'm going to be doing this a little more often from now on. Next week, I'll be doing possibly Battle of the Sexes and My Little Pony, the movie. So look forward to those, and yeah, I'm excited to bring this to the show because I like talking about movies. So even if they're disappointing, like Victoria and Abdul.
Really talking about movies? What the fuck are you doing on here then? Anyways, yeah. So thank you for your many reviews, Joel. I definitely want to see Trophy, Victoria and Abdul. That sounds cool. So let's move on to.
I would say to maybe see Victoria and Abdul if you want to catch up with the best actresses because she's going to be nominated. So if you're listening out there, and Chase to you in case, if you are wanting to keep up with the Oscar scene and you want to see everything that's in major contention, I would say to see this, despite the fact that I wouldn't recommend you see it. I'd just say to see it to keep up because it is going to be nominated, and if you want to see everything that's nominated, see this movie.
And so, I will also say, because I want to bring it up again, Gerald's Game. If you want to talk about nominations, Carla Gugino, the hot chick from Spy Kids. I actually I was watching Stuckman's review, and he brought it up, and I was like, okay, I'm not the only crazy person thinking it. Yeah, she should be nominated too. So that's all I'll say about Gerald's Game. But once again, Gerald's Game, Netflix, check it out. So, anyways, the final movie of tonight's docket, guys, is Stronger. Now, this one is directed by David Gordon Green. And Joel, is it kind of weird that this is the second Boston Marathon bombing movie we've gotten this year? Because I saw Patriots Day in January.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess this topic is really taking off. It's this one is the story of Jeff Bowman, who was by happenstance at the finishing line of the Boston Marathon in 2013, when two explosions rocked it and killed, I can't remember how many people, but several, I think like a dozen. He was not killed, but his legs were blown off, and it's interesting because this movie is only sort of about that. There's a lot more here that's tied to him, and I got to ask Chase before we get started in this review. You know, you read the premise of this movie, and were you expecting all of the points of the premise to be basically like covered by the 20-minute mark? Because that's what they were, basically. I mean, there's a lot more to this guy's story after the explosion occurs, and that occurs before the 20-minute mark, really. And
yeah, I was actually kind of surprised at the route they took and what they actually focused on, but it actually makes for more of a touching story. Now, this one is actually based on Jeff Bowman's experience, like his book. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room because it's people are going to be comparing it. Patriots Day is more of like a thriller going after the terrorist. Stronger is more about one individual that was put in the wrong place at the wrong time and has to deal with the consequences of rehab and people coming up to him and stuff. So they're completely different movies, but yes, they do have a similar backdrop of events. So we just have to put that out there. But yeah, no, just to answer your question, I was surprised that what they actually focused on. But when you think about it, since it is based on Jeff's experience, it actually makes total sense to me, because when something like this happens to an individual, your experience with the trauma and the rehab is strengthened by the people around you, and that is the only way to tell this story is with the people that he surrounds his life with. And I found that just quite magical, and I'm gonna go ahead and just start it off. It's one of my favorite films of the year so far. Until something knocks it out of its place, I gave Patriots Day a pretty damn good grade for what it was. This is a better film, and I could not believe what I was watching. And I have to address this as well because Joel already knows this. But if someone finds this out, then they're going to call me out for saying I'm biased. So I just want to be honest with you guys. I've known about this movie for 4 years. So I've known about it for a very long time because this is actually a true story. I'm not making this up. I've told Joel this story many, many times. I met a woman on a dating site. We never really actually met. We never went out or anything. She's cool. We still continue to talk to this day. She is actually associated and related to the writer of the film. So I've known about this movie for quite some time. So anytime when someone I know personally recommends a movie or someone is involved with making a film, I will be honest with your ass. I am never going to lie to you. I will tell you straight up how I think about the movie. Now, of course, if you are associated with it or you made the film, you're going to be excited about it. And like when she went to the premiere at TIFF, because she knows the writer, she told me, she was like, I really love the movie. And I was like, okay, I will watch it and I will let you know. I texted her as soon as I was out of the theater, and I still stand by it. I love this film. And honestly, I only have like one complaint. It's like a nitpick at this point. So I really loved it. I can't wait to dive into the positives because there's honestly no negatives for me in hindsight. So wasn't looking forward to it because it was the second film, centered around this event. But I was pleasantly surprised, and it's one of my favorites of the year so far, so I can't wait to dive into it. Joel, what were your initial thoughts, and were you even excited because of the fact that we literally got one 10 months ago?
I'm always a bit nervous about, even if they work out in the end, about movies that take on recent tragedies.
Because this is only 4 years old, folks.
It really is only 4 years old, and considering, not that I was there, but I listened for 6 hours as it all went down, to the Boston police scanner that day while I was doing homework or something. And I listened to it in the background. And anytime something big happened, I stopped working and started listening closely. And so it was a very emotional day to hear something like that live. Because I caught on, people had been alerted before really anything was known. So really, I literally found out as the Boston police found out what was happening, and that was very surreal. And I listened later as I didn't listen up until the point that there was a shootout. I didn't listen that long, but I listened for a while, and it was a very emotional day. And it reminded me of watching the news all day after 9/11. So I'm always very hesitant. That's not to say that I wasn't looking forward to it as a movie, which is the most important thing here, because the names involved were very exciting. I not really familiar with Tatiana Maslany, who plays his ex-girlfriend in the movie, Erin Hurley, but obviously I'm a huge fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. He's one of the best actors working right now. Everything from this to Okja this year, his insane performance there, all the way back to Brokeback Mountain, where I thought he held his own against Heath Ledger, and everything in between has just been really interesting. Long ago were the days of The Day After Tomorrow, certainly, and and Bubble Boy, okay, but right, but yeah. So I was intrigued, certainly, by the route that they were going to take, because the automatic expectation with a movie surrounding a tragedy is that it's going to be literally about the tragedy. So in some alternate universe, we get this movie called Stronger about Jeff Bowman, and it's about the days leading up to the attack, and then maybe gives like 10 minutes about the aftermath. But here, it's a very interesting thematic route that they've taken, because here's the thing. I'm just going to come out with this, and I'm going to say it because, and this is not to undermine the movie, this is actually to enrich the movie, and it's kind of a spoiler about the lives of Jeff Bowman and Erin Hurley. Here's the thing. This is partly a romantic drama about them, and very sadly, they are not together anymore. And it actually provides a lot of insight, because we see in this movie the pieces that would probably ultimately drive them apart. And I think that Chase will agree with me in actually not being surprised to hear that. because we see a lot of incompatibility between these two characters, and it's very interesting because the nature of Jeff Bowman's visit to the marathon is entirely tied into the theme of the movie, which is that this is a guy who doesn't show up. And he decided to show up this one day, and this was the outcome. And so the movie is partly about, of course, his survival with only half, he had to get his legs amputated just above the knee. And, him trying to survive an injury like that. He almost died, obviously, and there was massive blood loss, and by the grace of God, he was able to survive. But it's also about him as a person, what drives him, what makes him tick, and it's also about his insecurities and his flaws. It's not some empty hagiography about how great he is. And that's the route that it could have taken, but the thing is that there's a very important element here. And this is actually me starting into my positives, because I think that this movie...
Joel, let's just go ahead and get the negatives out of the way, because they're very minuscule.
They're very few. I actually will say that there's a problem, I think, with the movie trying to reach a climax, because there's really not a climax to the story. I think that it plays as a climax, and it's a bit of a problem. It's not a huge one, though. I've been really thinking about this movie since I saw it, honestly, and my grade has risen over the last few days. And but that is my major problem, that it's trying to reach a climax, quote unquote, and there's really not a climax. There's a story that's still going on. It's really just part of his story. And
I think I'm okay with that, because we're basically getting a slice of his life in the aftermath of this. So it's I'm okay with that
element. I just felt like there was a sense of finality that the movie thought that it had, and didn't really earn that. But again, it's not even a huge thing. It's really just a nitpick, and that's really it. I didn't have any other issues.
No, it's true. Like, the only nitpick I have, and this is just kind of grasping at straws now, is that the story, yes, can feel a little bit formulaic or like a little bit cliche, with like something happening to the main character, overcoming their adversities, being a nuisance to everyone around them. Everyone goes away, they come back. I love you. So.
It does wrap it into a familiar romantic drama at times, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, but that's not a problem, because let's just go into the positives. This film has 4 things going for it. And the quadfecta, that's a new word I'm inventing, the quadfecta of cinematography, writing, acting, and directing. All 4 of those are so damn good that I didn't even give a fuck that it was cliched as hell in some parts. So... Joel, I'll let you go first on this one with the positives, but I honestly do think that those 4 things attribute to this high grade that I'm going to give, Joel's going to give, and I know this is going to be very weird to jump off with, but because Joel mentioned the cinematography before I saw it, and I was like, I wonder how good it's going to be. Believe it or not, this has a shot that reminded me of last year's wonderful out-of-focus Conjuring 2 shot, and I was like, yes, I love that shot, and that's one of my favorite scenes.
One of the best shots of the year, if not the best shot of the year. It's a moment involving bandages that is fascinating, because it also taps into a theme that he's this kind of He's kind of a jumpy guy in his life, where he just he doesn't commit to anything, and in that moment, it's not surprising that he makes the decision that he does about looking at his bandages as they're being taken off, and the camera adopts.
It's a mix of the bandages and the fact that he's solely concentrating on her almost in her voice, and the fact that David Gordon Green, he focuses on the intimacy while putting the kind of injuries and his pain in the background, and like that. I thought that was genius.
Yeah. I mean, he keeps the camera on it. It's a long shot, or not a long shot. It's a long take, I should say. But it's amazing, and there's so many rich shots in this movie. It's kind of almost quiet iconography, I like to call it, when something like this. It doesn't have showy cinematography. It's not The Revenant or whatever. It's not something like that. But I believe it absolutely has a shot to be nominated, especially if the Academy likes it, and I suspect they will. And it's I'm gonna have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it's Tim Orr who usually shoots David Gordon Green's movies, and this guy's on fire. He made my believe it or not, made my cinematography twice, I think at one point twice in 2008 for both Snow Angels and Pineapple Express. But Pineapple Express would probably still be in those 5 because it's a beautifully shot movie. And this is the same. I mean, it's so rich, and there's a lot of it's almost like honey glazed imagery. It feels like there's lantern lit work there too, and it's a rich tapestry of very muted colors. Muted and rich seems like an oxymoron or whatever, but it's possible here. And
the mutated colors, like what Joel's talking about, and like the kind of like glossy cinematography, almost adds like that extra kind of flavor and characteristic to Boston, and it's like it feels grounded. Yeah, particularly
in his rehab scenes where it takes the sickly kind of regular colors of a building and actually makes them pretty, and it seems like this urgent place to do work on himself, and it heightens the movie's thematic center, and it's tied to that because it's not calling attention to itself, but it's really pretty work. And so that's the first one. But really, I want to get into the thematic structure here, which is really rich because this is a guy, again, he doesn't commit to things. He's flaky, and he has flaws, and here's what's most important. The movie adopts this philosophy as well. And it's a very telling line of dialogue. There's this moment where he's driving down the street, and they've passed under this bridge with a big Boston Strong, Bowman Strong on it. And he voices this contempt for that. Not really contempt, I guess, but sort of semi-contempt, something approaching it, and says, I get my legs blown off and I'm a hero. And it's this idea that, yes, he kind of became this hero because he gained fame after surviving an attack. But in no way does he think he's a hero. And the movie is such a rich exploration of that idea. What makes him a hero? Yes, he survived, and that's amazing, and it's a miracle. But what about that fact makes him a hero? And he's not sure, and the movie's not sure either. And that uncertainty is where this movie finds so much of its rich value. And it's a very interesting route to take because it could easily be, look at how amazing he is, and the fact that he survived, and not at all commentate on the fact that he found himself to be just another victim who happened to survive. All he did was lose his legs, and it's the worst pain he's ever felt. He's still feeling it. He's probably feeling, and it's a medical thing, phantom pain in his legs. Phantom pain is when you feel your legs that are gone. And he's obviously very, very commonly feeling that in here. Every minute is pain for him. And nothing about it was heroic. The fact that he survived for him was dumb luck. And plus, literally dumb luck, considering he was right by the bomber. And if you've ever heard the story, he was the guy who helped the FBI track down and locate the first brother. I don't know if they were brothers, but anyway, whatever, the 2 people. And it's just an amazing thing to explore. And then, segueing naturally into the acting, is Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal of that, which is unbelievable. This is one of the Chase is nodding vociferously. Okay. Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal of this is amazing. It's one of the best performances of the year. He never overplays the moments where he has to expel a lot of feeling. from his mouth. There's a moment where he fights with his ex-girlfriend in a car that could easily have turned into over-the-topville, but he keeps it human. And
yeah, that and the hospital shot were my two favorite scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's able. I mean, he screams in that scene, in both scenes, but in the car scene, he screams, but he screams believably. It's hard to do that too because you're acting. Obviously they probably did this a few times, so he had already done it a few times, and it's hard to get to that level for an actor where after multiple times you can reach that level of anger, and they must have gone at it a lot. And so he's amazing. It's one of my very favorite performances this year. And tangentially connected to him, the visual effects to remove his legs are incredible. Never did I think he had legs or past the knees. And that's hard to do. That seems to be one of the hardest things for someone to do because it's a moving target. You gotta, control that, and it's a combination of makeup effects and digital effects, and it's really hard to get that right, and they got it right here. It's amazing work. And then, and I'm going to say something amazing, just as good as him, maybe even better, is Tatiana Maslany, who is incredible. She takes the usual girlfriend role with a twist, and I'm gonna say what that twist is because there's a very important element to her character that I think the movie explores really well. She takes the usual girlfriend role and humanizes it to an incredible degree. This is an actual character. It's not just a girlfriend, and that's because she was there too. We see the explosions from her point of view, from behind her shoulders, and we see her reaction to it in close-up. So clearly she's dealing with some stuff. I mean, obviously that's going to be some PTSD, both in him because he's right there, and her because she was right there. I mean, she was a few hundred yards farther, but she was there. She saw it all. She saw the explosions. She likely saw, without realizing it, body parts, everything. And she's dealing with pain on her own. She plays that really well in an unspoken way through just about half the movie. And it's amazing. We can always read it on her face. She's always thinking about that. It's always constantly on her mind, and it's a beautiful performance. She handles the car scene just as well. I mean, it's a desperate moment, and then she leaves the car, and it's tough. It's tough to watch that scene, honestly, because of what she does when she gets out of the car, and it's amazing. And also, I feel like they need some accolades, Best Actor and Best Actress, honestly. But just as good as both of them, Miranda Richardson, completely unrecognizable as Jake's mother in the movie. If Harry Potter fans are out there, this was Rita Skeeter in the fourth Harry Potter movie, and you cannot recognize her. She gained some weight for the role, and she disappears into a note-perfect accent that never seemed to waver. It's completely... It doesn't even sound like her. And she's kind of playing the Melissa Leo from The Fighter in this. There's a lot of similarities. The personalities are the same. This very, a woman with a lot of stress. She's very stressed. She even has like a little bit of a tough breathing thing, where she's breathing a lot and noticeably, and it's really, really good. Top-notch performances all across the board from everybody, even the people I'm not mentioning in the family. And anyway, it's one of the best acted movies of the year. I'd say it's a strong, tight ensemble. The editing is really strong. This is not a movie that utilizes montages, thank goodness, because it could have. A lot of, American-made, dumped them all onto us. It was practically all of it was a montage, and this was the opposite. There were no montages here except for, like Rehab, and that was it. And even then, it was not a quick montage. It was slow building scenes of him doing work, and then, it builds gradually to the next scene of him doing work. Slow montages, I guess. And it was really strong in that arena. And I thought that David Gordon Green, this is some of his best work. The guy does prolific work all across the board. I haven't seen anything before Snow Angels. He did a few indie items, but I've seen everything since then except Our Brand is Crisis, I believe. I skipped that one, but I've kind of wasn't a huge fan of his movie with Nicolas Cage, Joe. I know that Chase and I disagree on that one, but I loved Pineapple Express. I loved Snow Angels. I even liked The Sitter, honestly. I thought that was fun. I didn't like Your Highness was kind of awful, but yeah, Chase is shaking his head vociferously. So anyway, but this is really, and I'm just going to say it, it's really strong work. This movie's title begs that pun, so it's not even a pun. This is really strong work from him, and a strong writing job from John Polono, who is the first-time screenwriter. This is the first script he's ever written. That's amazing. Based on Bowman's book with Brad Witter, I think his name, or Brett Witter or something. And really, really strong screenplay that has consideration for every moment of the story. And yeah, I mean, and then again, my one negative, I just feel like there's a sense of finality that the movie doesn't really earn, and that's sort of inherently, doesn't earn it because the story's not complete. It's never going to be complete. It's a whole life, but and his life is going to be forever changed by that, whether or not he can walk now with prosthetics or not, and the fact that he, split with Aaron Hurley. There's an entire avenue to his story that really isn't told here. It doesn't need to be, but it isn't told here, and I just felt like there was too much of a climax here that felt like a climax that was trying to reach an end, and it doesn't quite earn that, but that's my only negative. So I really, really like this one. So go ahead with your positives. You'll probably just agree with everything that I said. I
agree with everything. Grade and no. No. I think what really impressed me the most is probably David Gordon Green. Only because, he took this script, which was a very solid script, very good script from a first-time writer, like you said, and it's hard to believe that, this woman I know, that is her brother-in-law, and it's holy shit, he's never written really anything before prolific, and it's this is your first time? I told her, and I still believe it, the dude's got a 40% chance of getting nominated for adapted screenplay. I mean, he's got a good shot. So I mean,
it's a fairly thin category this year. So it's good. It's a good chance.
He's got a good chance. So David Gordon Green, what he does best in this film, and I'm gonna go ahead and compare it one last time. Patriots Day is more like a blockbuster. David Gordon Green takes material and makes it more grounded in realism, and that's what kind of is enunciated throughout the film. Not only does he hire real-life doctors and nurses who actually treated Jeff Bowman to do the work, he also has, like you said, this glossy kind of muted look of Boston, which adds more characteristic to the city itself with real-life breathing people, which also bleeds into the acting, because I never once thought that Jake Gyllenhaal or Tatiana Maslany were acting. I thought they were real people. That's hard to do when you sink into that role and you realize what you're watching is obviously, a fictional, piece of art in front of you. It's a fake thing, but it was so tangible that I thought I was watching real life people going through this situation. And so yeah, it starts off with the writing, which is solid, goes into this directing, which he takes it to a whole other level, makes it more grounded, and then you have these powerhouse performances which take it even further into the stratosphere to make it a more emotional, enriched experience. And just like what we were discussing earlier, I love the fact that they showed the aftermath of it and what it was like for the family and his loved ones to basically, this is going to sound, I hope it doesn't, I don't want to offend anyone, but there is this, kind of awesome correlation between the bomb going off at that marathon and then that transferring over into Jeff Bowman being the bomb for his family and basically creating the shrapnel amongst their lives with being this nuisance.
It spiderwebs through the whole family. I mean, and to go back to the fact that he just doesn't feel like he's a hero for any reason. There's a moment where I'm not going to give it away who it was because it's not really important, but the moment's important when there's a certain talk show host that's invited, and he rejects it because he doesn't feel like he's worthy of that treatment, and that's the whole movie. The movie is that kind of a study. It's a study of humility, and it's a study of family. There's such a tight knit feeling of family here. It's almost like this interesting cross section between part of Patriots Day and the family parts of The Fighter, where we get this sense of community, and we also get the survival story of having to live with half of two legs, and it's really interesting. I mean, and you're right. I mean, it is like he's sort of this. He becomes this kind of live wire in the family where it just cobwebs throughout the rest of his family and affects everybody. And it's
people tend to forget that because when they watch this movie, they're going to automatically think the mom is selfish, Tatiana Maslany is selfish. It's like, do people not realize when stuff like this happens, like, it's tough for people around him to care for him. It's very stressful. Like, I'm not saying that, like,
as somebody who lives, and I'm just going to get personal here, as somebody who lives with anxiety a lot, I mean, it's tough to process any sort of change. And considering the fact that the mother was always very stressed, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of anxious element there, medically speaking, and if there was, the sudden change, and maybe even in his dad, who takes this even harder in the movie, if there's something like that, I mean, such a change to process is amazing.
It's tough. And, just to kind of bounce off of that, like, when I was struck with Crohn's disease when I was 19, I went to the hospital. Like, I scared the shit out of my parents. And, like, now, obviously, I'm a little bit better off. I had medicine. I'm consistent with my, diet or whatever, but, like, dude, it's not fun to put your parents through the ringer like that. It's not fun to put your friends through the ringer like that. Like, I almost felt guilty.
The automatic thing we all always, and that's, when I was officially diagnosed and recently re-diagnosed with autism, that's what happens. You revert to what you know, and that then happens to those around us, the people who are diagnosed with stuff, and it causes strain, and this is a movie it's a very nuanced movie about familial strain, and
it's great contrast because
absolutely
it shows the strain within the family and the people around him, but then you have people that don't even know him who call him a hero, and they're putting him in this, like, limelight of fame, and he doesn't understand why. He's just a normal dude that works at Costco. Like, he doesn't understand the reason why he is put up on this pedestal, and so you have the public that perceive him like that, but then we know, there's that intimate kind of side to his story where it's like, people don't realize, like, this affects, like, people close to him, and, like, that there's,
and also
you're right, that happens with,
I didn't mention it all the time. I didn't mention it, but there's a moment with a truther.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and you get a lot of insight there, and I feel like that's
it's the disconnect that you don't know these people.
The public perception starts to kind of settle for him, that there's a lot of opinions about him in the public eye. There's the people who find him a hero. There's probably the people who have really no opinion. There's going to be people who have no opinion about him in this. They're going to be caring more about the big picture of the attack. Then there's the people who don't even believe it happened. And there's a moment here where he confronts that in reality, and you can tell that was a real moment. Like, that was something that happened. That was probably not an embellishment of the facts, if there is any here. And I mean, it's really
speaking of that bar scene, there's one scene in particular, one exchange of dialogue that captures the whole essence of his character and what he's going through and what people don't understand. This is not spoiling because obviously he's going to become famous after this attack. Joel, do you remember that part where he's sitting in the bar, basically drunk at this point? This couple comes up to him like, "Can we take a picture?" And he goes, "I'm going to kill myself," jokingly. Like but you know that like that's a possibility for him because of what he's going through. Like it's it's
right
insane.
then it's and he even asks them, they even mention like, we didn't let them win. He's like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And, you can tell that that's a genuine question in his mind that he's just, verbalizing because he's drunk. He's been accosted by fans, quote unquote. And, it's a genuine question of whether or not, for him, does the fact that he survived mean that the terrorists lost? Mm-hmm. It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's not one with an easy answer or even an answer. I don't even know how to answer that. Honestly, like there's really no answer there. And, if an attack happens, it means in part way they won, but if, not a whole lot of people died, I guess in some way they lost, but it's the middle ground between those two that, he just is stuck in that because he was an innocent bystander. Mm-hmm. And he has no, grand, political statement on all of this. He was just a bystander. He's not a hero. He's not any of these things that he's being put on the pedestal for, and he's certainly not a paid, a person who was paid to fake it.
Yeah.
As he was, told in the bar and the other bar, and it's just
it just shows you the many layers to the film, and it's not just one note, like you said, like he's being held up as a hero, and like that's it. It's like no, there's a lot of shit going on, and you need to examine it further. And in
the early 2000s, that's probably what the movie would have been.
Probably
it would have been this very surfacey, like superficial examination of that, but it's not. And thank goodness it's not. I think we live in more nuanced times, despite our leadership. But nevertheless, it's very strong. So I guess my final thoughts are it's very strong. And I'm going to give – it's not quite an A, but it is an A-, and it's definitely a top 10 contender. This is a really, really good movie. I would – it's emotionally draining, as Chase told me in his text after the movie.
It definitely is. Like Joel, Joel knows this. I've already told you guys this. Like, if there's like something that like looks really rough to watch on screen, I'll start crying. Like I just like because I get so invested into like what I'm watching. I'm like it's insane. As a big huge ass man like myself, crying is just weird. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm a one up you though. I'm just gonna give it a solid A. I think it deserves the A status. Just pointing out what Joel was saying, I do think that Gyllenhaal and Maslany, which I've actually never seen Orphan Black, but I hear she's incredible in that show. That's where she comes from. They need to get nominated. Cinematography needs to get nominated. Adapted screenplay needs to get nominated. And if we're short on directors, please throw David Gordon Green there, because this fucking guy, I still can't believe that Joel and I have uttered this phrase. Wow, Stronger was a really great film. It's hard to believe this guy is directing the Halloween reboot next year. It's like, it's so fucking weird.
It's amazing because I'm just imagining some weird like universe where when they do the trailer, they say from the director of Stronger and Your Highness. And Pineapple Express.
Oh my
God. It's
God.
just so weird, especially considering it's being, co-written by Danny McBride.
And speaking of Danny McBride, not only did he do Stronger, he also snuck in the first 3 episodes of the new season of Vice Principals. So the guy's always working on different projects. It's weird. So yeah, listen, Joel and I agree, top 10 contender for sure, unless something else can beat it. A- from him, A from me. So what did you guys think about Stronger? Please let us know down below. But that's why I had to address the fact that I know someone associated with the project, because I don't want people to be like, oh, you're just biased because you know someone. It's like, no, I will be honest with you. And if Joel is any indication of that, he straight up just basically said everything I said. So unless I paid him to say that shit, then Yes, it is a great film for sure. So let us know down
below. He paid me $65,000.
Shut your fucking mouth. Anyways, that was delightful. So that's the movie reviews, guys. It went on a little long for that one, but that's okay. I'd rather talk about that one than American Made, to be honest with you. So, so let's get into some box office stuff. All right, Joel. Here's the deal.
It's my weekend to guess, right?
This is Joel's weekend, and he's probably going to have a heart attack, but that's okay. We'll record it live on air. The hints that you have, the big releases were American Made, and did everyone forget Flatliners? Yep. So those were the only two bigger releases, and also just to maybe throw a little wrench into your guessing, Battle of the Sexes gained over 1,000 theaters this weekend, so maybe that had something to do with it. And then also, no, that's about it. All right, so what do you got for me? Guess away.
Okay. Battle of the Sexes does indeed throw a wrench into it. Oh, goodness. I'm going to gamble and say that at number one is Flatliners. No, I'm not. Okay, no. Number one is American Made automatically. Am I confident about that? I am not. But I'm just going to say it. So number one is American Made. Number two is Kingsman. Number three is It. Number four, I'm going to say Flatliners. And number five is Battle of the Sexes.
All right. You got nothing right. But listen, do not beat yourself up because I'm about to blow your fucking mind, so bear with me. All right. So Battle of the Sexes actually came in at number 6.
Oh, 6,
and
okay.
You're going to love this, but it rose 559.6% from last weekend, and it got 3.4 million, so that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, those always interest me. I love big rises like that.
Yeah. And speaking of big rises, just to kind of veer off for a little bit, Victoria and Abdul came in at number 12 with a rise of 549% with 1.3 or 1.031 million, so it's pretty good for that.
I'm not surprised. My screening, when I saw it, it was packed.
Oh yeah, no, that was the same day.
I think there were maybe 5 empty seats. It wasn't a very big theater, but I think there were maybe 5 empty seats, and it was all elderly people. But
it was the same day as the American Made screening, and this is actually a true story. Victoria and Abdul sold out so fast with the passes or whatever that they were begging people to come over to American Made because it was only half full at the time. So I was like, oh shit. Anyways, so that was there, and then a couple others down at the bottom. I'll get to that, but the top 5. Flatliners is number 5 with 6.7 million. God bless you. With a budget of 19 million. God bless you. With a worldwide total of 9.8 million. So doubling that, they didn't really spend much more on marketing. So I'm going to say maybe 45 million total to break even. It'll do fine on streaming, I guess, but that's still a huge flop. Number 4 is the Lego Ninjago movie with 12 million even. Yeah, you forgot about that one. Its budget is unknown. Worldwide, it's at 58 million. Domestically, it's at 35. Not good for a Lego movie. That's all I'll say. All right. Here's where the fascination starts. You got none of the top 3 right. But do not beat yourself up. Because between number 1 and number 2 and number 3, they're all separated from thousands of dollars. Like they're all extremely close. And now it could change tomorrow with the Monday actuals, but as of right now, here's where it stands. Number 3 was 17 million even. Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Right now, its budget is 104. Doubling that with its heavy ass marketing, I wouldn't be surprised if it needs about 250 to clear in the green. It's got 192 worldwide. It'll do fine, especially with streaming and shit. Number 2, American Made. Get this, $17,016,000. So it edged out Kingsman, and we're not even done with the edging out yet. So that's number 2. Its budget was an astonishing $50 million. Where the hell did that money go?
Probably to Tom Cruise.
To like half to Tommy. So right now, worldwide, believe it or not, is at 81. Domestically made 17, a little over 17. Its foreign market, because Tom Cruise is huge overseas, it made 64. So it'll do fine because people love him overseas. Number 1 is It.
Whoa.
With $17,310,000. So between number 1, 2, and 3 is a separation of $300,000 basically. That's fucking insane. So it has made number 1 for its 4th week in a row. Or no, last week it was 2, sorry. But still, it pretty much dominated September. Right now, it has got a budget of 35. You double that with its marketing, I'm going to say a cool $100 million to break even. Right now, domestically, it's at $291, and worldwide, it's at $553 fucking million. That is insane.
5 times.
5 times
5
it's
times
green.
what it needs.
That's insane,
Goodness.
dude. So yeah, that's the main box office. To just touch upon a couple smaller ones, Lucky opened up into 5 theaters, which is unfortunately Harry Dean Stanton's last film. Didn't do that well. Came in at number 33 with only $46,000 in 5 theaters. What did even worse, in 5 theaters, coming in at number 36 with $35,000, is the Liam Neeson Mark Felt movie.
Oh,
that's terrible. So I'm sorry, but man, there's some ones that were DOA this week.
That one's gonna be a non-event. Just completely. Nobody's gonna hear about it now, and thus nobody's gonna see it next week when it goes wide. It's just gonna die.
It's gonna die on impact. It's pretty bad. Mother dropped 55%, made another $1.4 million, still losing money, but Paramount, thank you. Stronger actually gained 72 theaters, and it only dipped 38%. Not bad. Almost made $1 million to add its total to $3.2 million. It's not bad. And Friend Request dropped 60%. So that was cool. Made $800,000, and it hasn't even made its budget back yet, so that's cute. Fuck that movie. All right, so...
Hey, can you tell me, you know how Birth of the Dragon dropped 88% or something? Is it even on there?
It's not. 48? It's not at all.
It's not at all. Okay,
no.
It was at like 45 or something. I can't remember. But
yeah, they
okay.
Hell, Trophy.
I know it was its last weekend in the theater, I believe.
Trophy did better than it. Trophy came in at number 54 with $2,000.
Oh, there we go, $2,000.
It was in 21 theaters, so there you go. Wow. Yeah, so that's it for the box office, guys. Let us know your thoughts down below. Next week, for episode 202, we are doing My Little
Pony, the movie.
That's it.
My
That's
Little
it.
Pony,
Nothing else.
movie.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. There's nothing else coming out.
No, we're actually doing Blade Runner 2049, of course. And Joel, that is your episode. So are we going to do anything else, or is it just going to be that? What's going on?
I mentioned it earlier, but we'll possibly, it could be a joint review. It'll probably just be me, but Battle of the Sexes, which I already saw. You have to wait to find out what I thought. And then My Little Pony, I'm reviewing that because I'm just way too curious. I'm seeing that. It's funny. I'm seeing both that and Blade Runner on Thursday, and I'm seeing Blade Runner first. So it's going to be a weird tonal whiplash situation where I see this very slow burn thriller, sci-fi thing, and then the rainbow vomit.
Puke.
And I see. Wait, you said Skittles puke. I said rainbow vomit. It's just
there you go.
These are characters in the movie, right? They've got to be.
Obviously.
Pinkie Pie is an actual character name. But yeah, so I'm seeing that. Whatever. It'll be free because I get free tickets at work. So, not work. At my dad's work technically, but at my theater I get free tickets. So, might as well. and so I'll offer a quick review of that. I won't dwell on it too much. I'll just do my little thing like I did with Trophy and Victorian Abdul, and that's next week. So
yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to dive into Blade Runner 2049. I will definitely catch up on the good old original Blade Runner this week. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, let's wrap it up this show so we can get to the episode. Joel, where can the people find you online?
You can find my writing at joelonfilm.com. I've got reviews this weekend, but they're not posted yet. I'm posting them tomorrow once I finish my written review of Trophy. And then DallasMovieScreenings.com. I haven't had any in a couple weeks, but I should have some coming up, I'm hoping. And then you can find me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling. That's REEL. And yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's just like with Joel's. It's Real Chase Lee, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, with this podcast, please follow, like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, and let people know this is the definitive podcast on the interwebs. That was creepy, but that's okay. Because yeah, that will be next week, guys. Blade Runner. Please do spread the show around. Let people know that you do enjoy it, because Joel and I like doing it for you. And hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully we convince you to be one. The intro and outro music is done by my friends band Fervent Roze. And guess where you can check them out? In the description, just like everything else. And speaking of that, let's play them out. Peace out, everyone. You guys are badass. Bye-bye.
Bye.